To be completely honest, what is this? So Luke's already playing audio. All right, to be completely honest, I don't like being the subject of the news story. As much as people try to claim that, they're like, oh, he was trying to get attention or whatever. We had an opportunity. We thought we were lucky to have several people on the show who were in the news, because even right now, Mitch McConnell's coming out. You've got Piers Morgan coming out. Stories about Donald Trump refusing to denounce Nick Fuentes because he doesn't want to alienate voters. This is the dominant story, and it's unfortunate we weren't able to actually talk about the news, but we have a lot of details to go through. Stuff I talked about in the morning, new details that have emerged now, that they had a private plane ready for them after they left the show, which it's entirely possible they were able to get a private plane very, very quickly. But it also seems very, very rare and unlikely. But again, I don't want to accuse them of anything. I think it's possible that they had this planned. They've been adamant they didn't plan this. And I think it worked out very well for somebody who wanted revenge on Trump, considering the news cycle. So we'll talk about that, plus what's been going on outside of that. And of course, we want to talk about censorship and Elon Musk. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com, become a member to support our work. We will have a members-only uncensored show for you tonight. We didn't have one yesterday because, we had Ye on and he left. And I'll say it again. Dude doesn't owe me anything. If he wants to leave, so be it. Nobody has to stick around on the show. They can always bail on me. That's the way it goes. Dude's a powerful billionaire, or former billionaire, whatever you want to call him. The last thing he needs to sit here and have me talk about whatever. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us to apologize is our good friend. I'll just throw it to you.
Tim, I'm sorry I left the show yesterday. It was a complete apology, and I was very wrong, and I'll be back whenever you like. Vote for me in 2024.
Okay.
How was that?
It was okay, I guess.
Well, I didn't want to be too,
edgy?
No, because then I wouldn't want to steal roles from black actors.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to get in the whole Apu situation.
Oh, right. So you're Michael Malice.
I am Michael Malice. Yes. Shalom. I'm here representing Zog.
Okay. What do you do?
Thanks for coming, man.
I think most people know who you are.
Oh, okay. It's all interesting.
What's your biggest claim to fame?
I am the organizer of the Anarchist Handbook. You guys can get the hardcovers at anarchisthandbook.bigcartel.com. And I was on a billboard because of you guys.
That's right.
In Times Square. And my next book, this is the big news before we get into this stuff. I finished my next book, The White Pill, yesterday. I'm uploading it to Amazon Thursday, I think. And we're going to launch it live on Timcast and see if we can get a book to #1 on Amazon live and make internet history.
Are you cool?
You're self-publishing?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Why go through...
Make Michael Malice the #1 Amazon
I hit
bestseller.
#3. This hit #3. So hopefully we can hit #1.
Very cool, man. Well, how do you describe yourself for those who aren't familiar with you?
I am an anarchist without adjectives. I have a podcast called You're Welcome, Twitter, douche, and lover of all peoples.
Well, okay. Right on. We got Luke hanging out.
I think I'm supposed to say shalom, assalamu alaikum, right? I think that's what I'm supposed to say there. Hi there, my name is Luke Radowski here of wearechange.org, and today I have a T-shirt of Klaus Schwab.
I thought I was supposed to be the Jewish one. Make them shekels, buddy.
Of Klaus Schwab saying that you will get no presents and you will be happy, which you could exclusively get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Because you guys do that, that's one of the main reasons why I am here. Thank you again so much for supporting me, thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Ian, I'm sorry you're perturbed. Your crystals have been disturbed. I told Nick, I was like, hey man, they have LSD on them. And then he was like joking, and then like 5 minutes he was like, hey, really? Did they? I was like, yeah.
And then, but
then Milo came down and he just like knocked
got
them all
high
down.
on LSD. Milo, you like LSD, Milo? No,
I think your brain is broken.
I like those guys. That was a chaotic situation last night. I hope that we get a chance to talk to them in the future and kind of figure out, like I was saying last night, they're like, Ian, would you have them back on? And I'm like, yeah. I'm the kind of guy where they're like, why would you interview the devil, Crossland? And I'm like, because people keep saying he's evil. I want to know why.
No, he's also, the devil's going to be pretty charismatic.
Well, let's talk about this. This is actually a good thing to get into. Like, hosting them, what people were saying, your thoughts and everything. So we'll get into it.
And before we do, I want to point out, yes, You're Welcome, Michael Malice show. I don't know, YouTube. And do you run it through any portals on your website or anything at this point?
No, just it's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Rumble. It's on Odyssey.
I was on an episode. If you guys haven't seen it, it was excellent. Michael's a great interviewer.
It was a lot of fun.
Very fun. And I haven't seen you since then. So
that's true.
Good to see you, buddy. You look good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got Serge hanging out. Press the
Hey,
buttons.
low energy Serge Dupria. What's up, everybody? How you doing, YouTube? Take it away, Tim.
Let's talk about
The worst by far is Serge. Very weak, very low energy.
I do want to mention one quick thing too. I had a phone call with Google today. They're panicking over Section 230 reform. So the Supreme Court has agreed to take up a case pertaining to recommendations. And so YouTube is now actively lobbying prominent creators, I suppose. I got an email and it asked me to sign up for a certain date to talk to their head of policy. He was very nice, but I was personally offended at the things that he was saying. So I'm not trying to be mean to the guy. We're going to talk again probably tomorrow. But it seemed like they were trying to lobby me to agree that YouTube should have the right to be politically biased and be immune from defamation, which I absolutely do not. So we'll talk about that too, but we got to get into this stuff. So here's the first story.
Yeah.
Many of you may have seen what happened last night on this show. And I have concerns that we had Ye, Fuentes, and Milo on the show. A lot of people messaged me beforehand saying, why are you having them on? What they're using you, they have an agenda. And this is
Who's
funny.
they?
Who's they? No. But listen. They say they as in general people messaging me. They're using you, Tim. They're using you. And I said, for all of them, why do you think people come on this show? Yeah. Do you think they're coming on because they love me and they want to hold my hand and smile and look at my face? Or do you think they're trying to promote a book? Do you think they're trying to get a message out? They're trying to promote their Twitter accounts. They have ideas they want to share. Of course, everyone's using everybody. I have guests on so we can make an interesting show. It's our business. They come on because it's an opportunity for them to share or sell or whatever.
I thought we were friends.
Think again.
That's we're only having you on because you make us laugh.
Okay. I
No,
guess
we're
I'm
friends.
a clown.
So here's what I want to say, because right now there's a lot of stories. Trump is being told that he's got to denounce these guys. There was a story that popped up on Fox 5. Kanye West spotted in Frederick after storming off of podcast. Here's the potential scenario, to be fair. The scenario is they abruptly left the show. They were on it. Ye didn't like that I was not agreeing with him or that I was pushing back in any capacity, got up and stormed off. Milo and Nick, working for Ye, wouldn't stick around and left. Immediately, they called a charter company to schedule a private plane who was they were very lucky that a hot crew, it's what they're on the ground ready to go, was available nearby and was able to then dispatch a plane to Frederick that they could then get into within a couple hours notice. Entirely possible. My personal opinion, that sounds really, really crazy if that's the case. So when they stormed off the show, my first thought was that, okay, he stormed off the show. Then we talked about it and I said it was the perfect thing to do if you wanted to generate press. There's a story going around that Donald Trump met with Nick Fuentes, an anti-Semite white supremacist. That was all last week. First thing this week, we have this show. And I think it was the first thing Nick said on the show was that something about isn't it really them? And then immediately Ye gets up and walks out downstairs, smile on his face, eating cookies. Apparently, one of our guys here said that when they were leaving, he said something like, I came, did the show, got what I needed, now I'm done, I'm leaving. And so that made me wonder about what was the goal. It's possible, maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, that Milo wanted revenge on Trump. Milo was quoted as saying he invited Nick because he knew Trump would mishandle it in the press. He wanted to make Trump's life miserable. Trump is mishandling it in the press. The first thing out of, I believe it was the first thing out of Nick's mouth was, but isn't it them? And then Ye leaves right around the half an hour mark when we're at 100,000 concurrent viewers. And that said to me, they had to have planned this. Then I saw the video of them going to the Frederick airport, boarding what appears to be a super mid private jet right after the show, within a few hours. And I was like, how did they charter a private jet that fast? It is entirely possible they did. I know where the jet originated. We did some sleuthing to figure it out. What happened was about a half an hour's flight time away, a hot crew, this is what I'm told. It is entirely possible. These are by the experts in the private aviation. A hot crew was available. What they said was a plane nearby flew to Frederick, landed for about an hour, and then departed with them. It is entirely possible that they happened upon what's called a hot crew. That's what they said, meaning there were people on the ground working, ready to take off, but for no reason. The plane was not being used. Ye is a very powerful, wealthy individual. Perhaps he knows somebody and someone has his back. It's interesting considering everything he's been saying about how they're trying to arrest him and shut him down and silence him and censor him. But apparently he was able to get within 2 hours notice a super mid private jet to fly from here to Los Angeles with a crew active. I don't know what happened, but to me it sounds staged. It sounded like they knew in advance they'd be leaving. At least Ye may have.
That's not the vibe I got. I got that they seemed very genuine when they were here. I know Milo. I mean, he's a zany dude, but like he's looking for redemption. That's his path right now. And Kanye is grasping at straws to try and find someone to help him. And Nick was so kind the entire time he was here. Like I've heard stuff about him. I've seen him say stuff online out of context that's racist. But when you see him eyes to eyes, like the guy is looking for friends. Like he doesn't probably is lived in an environment where he didn't have a lot of friends. So what happened was you and Kanye were going back and forth and kind of interrupting each other. You mentioned at one point, Tim, you were holding your finger up, indicating you want to jump in, and he was like,
show.
And he's like, you want to say something, go for it.
Before the show.
Yeah, and even
so
I think
as soon
during
as the show started, his demeanor changed.
So you guys were kind of had an agreement, like we're going to kind of talk over each other, we're going to flow. But then when Nick chimed in and you interrupted Nick, Kanye's face dropped, and then he got out. He was like, you crossed the line. When you interrupt me, that's okay. You interrupt Nick, I'm out.
Before the show, when we're doing pre-show and setting up, it was so different. Kanye said a few things. I pushed back, and he just had a smile on his face and he's nodding along like, whatever. The show comes on, and all of a sudden he's like, we went to Trump's dinner. I was invited first. I called Milo. So anyway, let's talk about anti-Semitism. And I'm like, whoa. Like, we were just talking before the show.
You know what happened? The first article.
He knew what the article was. We had the article pulled up pre-show. Mm-hmm. He mentioned Pence. He asked Fuentes about Pence and what Trump... I said, we'll use this story to launch the dinner and the controversy caused by it. And I'll ask you about how this dinner came to be. What do you think about it? What happened with it? And then what is Ye 24? And I was like, who am I kidding? We're going to get into the anti-Semitism stuff. I'm going to push back. Here's how it'll play out. Like, if you guys want to say something, I'm going to put my hand up and let you know I'm going to talk about this. And they're like, of course, no problem. Absolutely fine. And then as soon as the show started, all of a sudden it was like, oh, how dare you bring up this article? Oh my.
Here's what I don't understand about that dinner that doesn't make sense to me. You do not get a +3 to meet with the president. I don't care who you are. That is not... Piers Morgan had a piece today that he won The Apprentice. He was, I think, the first winner of the Celebrity Apprentice. He was interviewing Trump at Mar-a-Lago. The Secret Service, basically gives you an anal swab before we're going to meet a former president, especially if you're dealing at Mar-a-Lago, which not that long ago was raided because there were concerns about things that are classified or whatever, top secret, so on and so forth. I don't understand how, if you're running for president and this is the scenario in your home, you're going to have dinner with anyone, and be like, oh yeah, bring your buddies, and not be paranoid, even just for security reasons. Who are these people? Are they spies? Are they so on and so forth? I don't understand that.
We struggle with this here. When we're bringing people in, we have to send this big long-winded email about who's allowed here, what this means, vetted by you, stuff like that. Now, I wouldn't say it's like we're that strict where we...
But you're not the president.
Exactly.
You're not a former president. It's absolutely beggars belief. And the other thing is, like, Cenk Uygur had a tweet about, like, this isn't a surprise. This is who Trump hangs out with, white supremacists. It's like, when someone's the president, you know exactly who they're hanging out with. You know every minute of their day, who they're having for dinner, and so on and so forth. It's not a big secret. Their schedule is very public and very known, and it's a very big deal. This is the president of the United States, in this case, the former president of the United States. So what Trump is saying does not cut ice with me. And what else is crazier to me, in all seriousness, his daughter converted to Judaism, right? So this is something that obviously, and I think one of his other kids married a Jewish woman. So the joke is like, what's the difference between a New York Times reader and Donald Trump? Donald Trump's grandchildren are going to be Jewish. It's like, if he has this in his family, for him to be like, well, oops, I didn't know, that's just confusing.
You think he just trusted Kanye and was like, if you want to bring whoever?
But why would you trust? But he just. I think first of all, he has this boner for celebrities that is really demented. Because that explains why he's endorsing Dr. Oz, who believed Jussie Smollett, who was for trans kid surgeries, who had the whole laundry list of very lefty ideas. Herschel Walker, who's just a football star for Senate. Like the love affair Donald Trump has for people who are blue checks is demented.
I think Ian's right about one thing, that this guy's looking for friends. I can't speak to the things that any of them have said in the past. Like, what I should say is, like, obviously they've said deplorable things, testable things. But what I genuinely believe is, we had Milo on this show a couple weeks ago, and he talked about supporting Trump. He talked about vengeance. He wasn't talking about this stuff. His focus was different. Then he gets involved with Ye, brings in Fuentes, and now all of a sudden this is like a particular component of his career or his personality. What I think happens is when you cancel people, they go in the only direction they can.
Wait, I'm going to disagree because I have receipts from Milo. Because when this all came out, I wrote a book about this. There's a chapter about Milo in my book on The New Right. I think Milo is very, very charming. He's very, very witty. He's certainly very intelligent. And of all the people who got canceled, the reason he got canceled, I think, was one of the more BS reasons. He was the victim of childhood abuse. He spoke out about it in a kind of tongue-in-cheek manner. I don't begrudge anyone who's suffered through something like that, how they should deal with the situation. And he was basically saying things like, okay, this is something that he was kind of rationalizing it. Like, I'm glad this happened to me at a young age, as opposed to being like, holy crap, I got my innocence taken from me at a time when it shouldn't have. So I think the fact that he was just like, get out, like everything's ruined for you because of something that had been done to him where he was innocent as a kid or teenager, I thought was really kind of over the top. And clearly it was like Al Capone going to jail because of income taxes. It really wasn't income taxes. They're just looking for an excuse to get rid of him. Yeah. But he did an article a couple of years ago with the Jewish Journal, because when this all came out, I'm like, I thought Milo was Jewish, because I remember this being a thing at the time when he pushed back about the Nazis about this. I sent hold on, let me pull it up. I got the DM here, and here's the article from the Jewish Journal. This is from 2019. And he was talking about this then, because this is with the Jewish Journal, and he had said, I'm quoting Milo here, let me get it out. He goes, he thinks the Jewish community and the Jewish lobby would be well served to not throw a gasket every time someone throws out what it may appear to be an anti-Semitic trope. And he says, this is quoting Milo, just like I don't like left-wing political correctness about women and blacks and Muslims, I don't like right-wing political correctness about Jews in Israel. So, and he said, people claim that really stupid things are anti-Semitic that are not really anti-Semitic, or they make more of a fuss about it than they need to. So at a certain point, he has been addressing this at least 2019, so 3 years ago.
What I mean to say is, if these guys were given an opportunity, if some, obviously it would never happen, but if you went to any one of these guys and said, we want you to be a brand ambassador for a big company to make you a lot of money, but you got to stay away from these subjects, they'd say yes.
Yeah, probably.
I think what happens is when people get love bombed, you'll get somebody who like starts getting a bunch of tweets where they're like, hey, I like what you're saying, keep saying more of it. And then they're going to start feeling good. They're going to be like, oh, I'm getting all this attention, building followers. And then some people are just going to say, like, these are people supporting me and I'm going to side with them. But there's an inverse to that. When you ban someone and they have nowhere to go and they can't get redemption, they will go to whoever is willing to accept them.
And on top of just the love bombs, it's the financial incentive. Because if people are getting paid because they have a following, now they're getting ad revenue or they're getting direct subscriptions, no matter what they're saying. If they're saying really cruel, evil things and they're getting paid for it, that's free speech. But also that can incentivize the continuation of the behavior. And it's kind of tough to dig out, especially if you get canceled. You're like, well, the only people that pay me are these people, and they only watch me because of this content. So let's do more of that.
When you get canceled, when you get censored, you get sent off to the far corners of the internet where a lot of people get radicalized. And people need to understand bad ideas need to be fought with good ideas. And we don't have this battle of ideas. We never had this battle of ideas, mainly because of centralized controllers, big tech intervening and saying, no, we don't like what you're saying. We don't like your political stance. Be gone. And then those ideas are never routinely challenged, routinely questioned. There's no pushback against them. And only in places where they fester and grow are these kind of larger elements that again, never see the light of public day. And I think this is why we need to debate. We need to argue. We need to, of course, create steelman arguments and question and debate everything.
This is another takeaway I had from last night. I love the YouTube as a platform. I've loved this since Steve Chen and Chad Hurley built the thing, and the third guy who I don't know the name of, sorry, dude. But last night conversation was not a conversation for YouTube in its current state. If you guys want to fix up your terms of service into a more free speech oriented thing, it would be. But when we have people on that there's a chance they might violate the terms of service of the platform, we got to go to another platform because we need to let those guys speak. Those people need to speak. And then let them, because if Kanye had went on for 30 minutes and then Nick responded for 20 minutes and they said all sorts of offensive things that YouTube would have stopped, we'd have a chance to rebut and talk about it and come to some sort of consensus that ideally we would all come out better people from.
Michael's got this look on his face.
Well, I think the problem is whenever, like, let's look at say something that's radioactive in a different way. The recent ad campaign about Balenciaga. right? So if you're going to have people talking about the pros and cons of Balenciaga, you can, and the ads where they had those kids with the teddy bears in bondage, and I want to use words carefully, I can see how a corporation would be like, you know what, we're trying to have a certain image and have a certain platform, and there's certain things that are going to be beyond the pale here. And because they have to be worrying about their advertisers.
I'm okay with that.
The
Well,
power of corporate America is just absolutely enormous.
There was another story about Balenciaga. They had done similar ad campaigns, and people are saying there's no way that slipped. Like there's no way they produced an ad and didn't know what they were producing.
I think there's absolutely a way, because this is how. Because I think we forget how dumb suits are. So all it would take would be one art director, and then for him to be like, look, it's arty, it's edgy. The kids were not being shown themselves in any kind of provocative or state of undress. They were just showing iconography, which is very different from like Mapplethorpe, who's in museums where you're showing full frontal on little girls, which got funding. Which you didn't know about Mapplethorpe thing? This is another example of how the corporate press is just completely dishonest. If you look at articles, Mapplethorpe had funding from the NEA, right, the National Endowment for the Arts. And he was this great photographer. A lot of the photography he was taking was very, very transgressive. It would be like two men. One has a whip somewhere. Another one with the razor on his, you know what. And he had, and then Jesse Helms, who was senator at the time, says this is not where our money should be going to. And he was condemned as homophobic. Well, many of these images were literally child pornography. There's one of a little girl with her knee up, flashing her genitals to the camera. But if you read any USA Today, Washington Post article, it really just sounds like you've got two guys kissing and Jesse Helms, the homophobe, has a problem with it. Yep. So it's completely skewed. Just let me finish. So in terms of Balenciaga, if you look at it, you could be like, oh, it's kids with teddy bears. It's like they're punks. You know, oh, you got this badass thing. You're not going to really read, oh, here's the printout of this lawsuit. Here's what this book entails, so on and so forth.
I disagree. I don't think it's Suits missing it. I think the messaging was clear. There's a history of it. And I think there's a reason Balenciaga deleted their Instagram, deleted their Twitter, because people were picking up on more and more and more signs. There's no way that you could see that image and be like, yeah, totally fine, totally okay. There's no way. It was so blatant. It was so in our face. And there was multiple instances.
More than once.
Multiple times where it's just extremely troublesome. And for an executive to look at it and say, oh, teddy bears, BDSM dolls.
The executive
babies laying down in precarious ways. The tape here or this case. There's no way they missed it. I think it was a deliberate sign to just brag about what they were doing. When you look at the fashion industry, they have a long history of being. Let me just finish really quickly. They have a long history of having a lot of Jeffrey Epstein types. Jeffrey Epstein was all in the fashion industry, right. And a lot of the other individuals that were on that client list are still in the fashion industry. Were never held responsible for their crimes, and whether it's running Victoria's Secret, sending out this messaging is not something that is an accident, because they've been doing it for many years, trying to normalize children as models. And a lot of the female models look like young boys. I don't think that's an accident. I think a lot of this is on purpose, because there's a lot of very dark, sinister people in that industry that want to gloat and highlight how bad they are, and they want to get away with it. And this was this representation from what I saw.
I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. What I'm saying is, it's not that they missed it. It's that the suit was like, this isn't my job. You have a photographer. That photographer has a brand name. I'm just the guy, the money guy. I'm going to let him do what he wants. It's not my place to jump in and interject. And basically, in that industry, these people who have brand names, like Balenciaga is a brand name, can basically have free reign to do whatever the heck they want.
They spend millions of dollars on these fashion shoots.
And it worked for them.
Over every little detail. I mean, the president of the United States literally decides what kind of tie he wants to set a particular mood, to have the particular background. There's no way they're spending millions of dollars on these fashion shoots and not micromanaging every little small element of it.
You're not hearing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
I don't think it's a suit. I think it was deliberately done, and I think the suits were complicit in it.
Okay, I think a lot of times in big corporations, the responsibility is very much disjointed, and one hand is not knowing what the other hand is doing. And I think the reason why this social media got pulled is because then someone realized, holy crap, otherwise they would have left it up. Because they're
Right.
like, this has been going on for a long time. We got to do an analysis to figure out when this started, how many of these iterations are there.
So you think people were like seeding this information into the ad
They definitely
campaigns?
were. It's not even a question.
It's everywhere in our entertainment, especially
Yes.
if you look at Disney, especially if you look at the subliminal, subconscious mind control, which I particularly call it, and the larger kind of degeneracy that is being pushed on the individuals, and even the corporate media, even talking about minor attracted persons. There's a huge agenda when it comes to trying to normalize this kind of debauchery, this kind of horrible behavior that a lot of powerful people inside of the government were committing, especially when they were going to that private island and doing absolutely horrible things to children that they kidnapped.
If you look at the cover of the DVD for The Little Mermaid, if you look at the scene in Aladdin where they're getting married, in the scene in Aladdin, the priest is excited. Let me just put it that way. If you look at the background of The Little Mermaid, one of the towers looks like a certain thing of a male anatomy. My point is, a lot of times these artists will put things that the suit will be oblivious to. That's all, and that's one example where you're not gonna disagree
wasn't
with.
there a movie, The Great Mouse Detective or something, where there was like an actual, they put like porn somewhere in it or something like that. People chatted this to us
There's a
before.
bunch of adult content and wieners all throughout, content for small children. And I think when it comes to these particular cases, we know so little because a lot of this is done in secrecy. We shouldn't be excusing it as an accident. We should always, with the absence of evidence, when we see very sinister people who have a history of hurting small children, always think the worst case possible scenario and demand more evidence. And I think
one's saying
excusing it as, oh, the suits just missed it is an instant or element. I'm sorry if I got your argument wrong.
I'm saying the suits just missed it. I said in very many cases, how these people work is they will get things past the goalie because the people who are looking don't know what to look for and are oblivious to it. And in fact, the fact that this has been going up, hold on, Ian. Luke's going. Sorry.
No, you hold on.
Sorry. The fact that this has been going on for so long and has only been picked up now speaks to the point that I'm making, that they're very good at getting things on a subliminal level that people aren't going to register. So if you have Balenciaga ads and you have literally tens of thousands of people seeing these ads and they're only getting picked up now, that just speaks to my point that a lot of times the money guy or the accountant or whoever is kind of signing off on this, they're not going to always be aware of what they're seeing.
Yeah,
I don't mind being compared to Ian. I think Ian's great, but at the same time, never excuse.
No one's excusing anything.
I know. Never try to blame something that it could be construed as an accident when it could be malice.
That's backwards.
Malice.
Hold on. That's
Sorry.
Hold on.
Explain it, Tim.
Hanlon's razor is the opposite. Would prove malice. Would suggest malice is right. Never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence.
Yes.
Thank you. You said that a lot better than I did.
But that would imply that Malice's argument is more likely true. I would just say one point on this. I agree a bit with you, Michael. And I'm not trying to argue with either of you. I think someone intentionally did this and intentionally did it for a long time.
No question.
And there are people who are supposed to be gatekeepers.
Right.
If hundreds of thousands or millions of ad viewers didn't even notice this, it's possible that the gatekeepers of these companies don't notice this stuff either, but someone is intentionally doing
And also,
it.
if you look at Hollywood history, like there were a lot of gay references that were meant there for gay audiences, whereas the straight people watching this and the executives would be completely oblivious. And there's college courses about this where they go back and deconstruct these old movies.
The higher you go up in a lot of these bigger institutions, especially corporations, the more likelihood that there's going to be a sociopath in them.
Yes.
So on that assessment and in the absence of evidence, I'm going to assume the worst, mainly because I know what they're capable of. And I think we should, from a point of view, not excusing their behavior, but at the same time saying, hey, they have a long history here. Let's get the evidence here, because they probably are doing some of the most awful, sinister, horrible things that you can't even fathom and imagine yourself.
Look, you're talking to me. Who are you perceiving as excusing this behavior?
No. I'm saying the suits that just were not aware of it.
But that's not an excuse. That's an explanation. If you are if you're signing off on something,
But that allows them, but that gives them a way to say, oh, we just didn't know. Yes, absolutely, we didn't know. We just didn't see this happening. I don't want to even give them that.
But I think where you and I disagree, and let's take away from Balenciaga, is if you look at, let's suppose, the Senate, right, or politicians, a lot of these people in power are not very bright. And a lot of times it's their staffs that are doing these malevolent things and are putting things over on the American people, things in terms of war. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so hopeful, is because when you look at the people who tend to be in power, they're really often very unimpressive.
Yeah, I think they use that as a way to cover their larger actions.
You think Biden knows what the hell's going on?
Absolutely not. He's a puppet, and I think there's bigger controllers and there's
That's all I'm
bigger
saying.
interests
We're on the
right
same
behind
page.
him.
That's-
Okay. Sorry.
Well,
for
it sounds like you guys are both right. It was both malice and incompetence. At
No.
some level, people were maliciously
listen,
putting child
I say
porn in.
100% malice.
I did it.
0 incompetence.
I did it. I got away with it, and I'll do it again.
So this is interesting conversation. I used to call them minor attracted people because I'm like, well, I want to be sensitive about this whatever delusion or whatever. And now I'm like, okay, pedophile. But the thing about pedophile is there's a big difference between a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old hooking up consensually and a 25-year-old and a 9-year-old getting it on. But when the 9-year-old doesn't know what's happening.
But Ian, that's just. With all due respect,
but they're both considered pedophiles.
No, they're not.
Well, I mean, if one's a
There's
consensual
something called- hold
statutory
on.
rape.
No, okay, listen, Ian. There's something called Romeo and Juliet laws.
Yes.
A 20-year-old,
then like 15 years old or 16 years old, wherever it's not legal in
and
the
then
state.
there's another word for that, I guess.
What, a phoebophile?
I guess. I don't know.
But whenever you see that word written on the internet, run away from the hills.
Right, exactly.
Right.
You're like, I get it. At that point, it's like, it doesn't matter. My point is, if two young people are within three or 4 years of age, many states say that's protected, depending. Like, I think in some of the states, they have these like 13 is the limit or 14 is the limit. So basically between 14 and 18 are shielded from these laws or whatever.
But it would be like,
or within 3 years of like 20. So if you're like a 20 and a 17-year-old.
So like if a 25-year-old and a 17-year-old consensually were hooking up, it's big difference than a 25-year-old and a 9-year-old.
No one's disagreeing with you, Ian.
So, but they're both called pedophiles. That's the problem with the word. It's
No,
so
they're not.
charged that if someone gets statutory rape accusation and they're 25
Ian,
and she's 17 or they're 23 and she's
17 and
17,
25 is not a pedophile.
well, a lot of people, I think, consider them because they're considered minors. They consider them pedophiles, and that's dangerous.
I
To
agree
conflate
that
the
it's
term.
dangerous, but I think there was a New York Times article several years ago when they were looking at. This is going to be a darker episode than I expected.
Well, why don't we get
Family
back on
friendly
subject?
language.
Let me just
We
make
were
this
talking about yay
Maybe
and
like this-
politics.
yeah, let's get to the fun stuff. You know, the Jews. There was a New York Times article. They were investigating child pornography, and according to that piece, whoever the FBI, I guess it was, didn't have enough staff to even handle the infants that were being in these videos. So the amount of very young stuff that's out there is profoundly disturbing. And I was going to write a book about this. I talked to my agent about it several years ago, and he's like, "Do you really want to be doing this research?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a good."
And there's multiple incidences of people coming to big platforms like Twitter a couple years ago and saying, hey, my photos here when I was underage are
Yes.
being leaked here. Twitter saying, oh, yeah, we'll do something about it. And then ignoring those
Oh, can
people,
we talk about this Twitter?
screwing them over.
I'm
and then
now
at the
angry.
same time, now Twitter, for the first time, is saying, we're going to be addressing this problem. And now the Apple App Store is threatening to cancel them. That's absolutely crazy.
This is the one. This is the you got me triggered. Now I'm going to go full Luke. Elon Musk, Eliza Blue, if you're out there, I think she's been on the show.
Yeah.
This has been her big issue, getting a CP off of Twitter. God bless her. This is something that is unambiguously a problem, something unambiguously horrific and evil, period, end of story. And a lot of times people who were in, as you said, were in these images or videos would contact Twitter and Twitter shrugged their hands. Elon Musk took over and he's like, all right, this is going to be like priority one. Like, this is a complete non-starter. This has got to go. We can worry about racism, homophobia, transphobia, gender pronouns, whatever. This is a problem. Forbes, who is an agent of the devil, wrote a tweet, an article that says, Elon Musk has tried to take on Twitter's child abuse nightmare, but according to experts, has only made it worse. And they tweeted it 9 times. I looked up how often Forbes had mentioned Twitter and children in the past. They've literally never even used those 2 words together previously. So now that Elon is trying to do something about it, Forbes has an issue with it because they don't have an issue with it. They have an issue with Elon Musk. So this speaks to what Luke is saying, how many people there are in power who do not care about children at all, but who only care about power and who get off on having power over other people, including young children.
And they brag about it many times by doing photo shoots.
Let's jump to this story from Fox Business in light of what you're bringing up. Musk is planning to release the Twitter files on free speech suppression. Public deserves to know. So, of course, I sat down with Rogan and Jack and Vijay, and I believe they outright lied to us. That the whole thing was just lies.
Haven't they lied under oath too?
I don't know about them
In
specifically,
Congress. Okay,
but I'm willing to bet Twitter staff probably have lied under oath to Congress, or at the very least, they've lied to Congress. Or even less than that, been wrong to Congress.
Sure.
Great. We'll hear what's going on. I gotta say though, the Twitter files, I would bet a substantial amount of money that they have files on child exploitation where there's a manager saying like, hey, don't do anything because it'll draw attention to us and it'll be bad for the stock price, stuff like that.
Oh my God. Oh,
Would you agree they were probably behind the scenes?
I'm praying with every fiber of my being that you're wrong. Like that's something that's so like purely evil that to have that in writing, it's just so disturbing.
What do you expect of
Something
these
like that.
people?
No,
you're right. You're right.
That
You're
have
right.
been,
But it's still, it's just horrifying to even think about.
These
Why
people have
why
been-
weren't they
yeah.
taking it down?
Yeah, it's a great question.
That's a very important question.
Elon snaps his finger. That's unfair. He's working very hard, getting everybody saying, shut it down. And it's disappearing.
Yeah, and these people at Twitter were taking advantage of the power and responsibility they had for their own personal benefit, for the personal benefit of the for the powers in charge, for the government, for the intelligence agencies, for the multinational corporations that are calling the shots there. So they're capable of doing a lot of very underhanded, evil things. And I think Elon Musk, even a couple of days ago, was tweeting, hey, it's far worse than I even expected it to be. And I bet there's probably so much evil, so much just nasty actions being committed by these people that a lot of people can't even imagine how bad it gets.
Let me ask you, Ian, because you worked for Minds and you actually saw a lot of the content that violated. I can't imagine, like, based on your experience, how bad do you think it is with Twitter? People posting this stuff.
It's got to be magnitudes worse because there's magnitudes more people using it. And I mean, like times 10, times 10, times 10. There's probably like a 10,000 more times more people using it. So I'd imagine there's 10,000 times more.
Well, what I mean is
there's probably even more than that because it's a centralized focus
right.
of interaction.
You actually had to deal with moderation when it came to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the FBI went to Twitter and was like, oh, that's child porn? Leave it up. It's a honeypot now. Let's see everybody that shares it and comments on it. Those are the people we're
Well, it's
going
like,
after.
Yeah, the federal government has run many adult child websites. And the stories of what they were doing is absolutely shocking.
What about the Banju boys? Is that how it's pronounced in Afghanistan?
I don't know.
So,
right.
Yeah, our allies in Afghanistan had a thing where they would bring out young boys and have their way with them. And basically, the U.S. This is also New York Times. The U.S. Armed Forces were told, they're on our team. Look the other way. This isn't our problem.
And then the soldiers that spoke out against it were court-martialed and punished. That were trying to stop it.
That wasn't
your
the
tax
Chinese
dollars.
Revolution,
Your
man.
tax dollars were paying for the U.S. military protecting and aiding small children being hurt in more ways than one.
I just wanted to come here and make some Jew jokes.
Well, you are. And they're hilarious.
Hey, the Balenciaga stuff opens the door.
Yeah.
But look, okay,
It's a killer material.
We can talk about, what's going on with Twitter because it's not just obviously the dark stuff, but we're probably going to see overt political bias. We're probably going to see election interference. Outright, them saying
The Hunter Biden thing off the
Absolutely.
top. There's no question that
And
was
they're
outright election interference.
and they're probably going to be saying in the private chats, this is going to help Biden win, or we have to stop Trump, things like that.
Yeah, there's no question.
It's dark, but I've lightened it. How about that?
No. That is the although the Hunter Biden with the niece and whatever, that's a whole other situation.
Yeah.
But-
Here we go again.
Yep.
no, but I there was this Norm Macdonald meme, which I don't think he ever really said, where the quote ascribed to Norm, which is, "I'm starting to think that the pedophile devil worshippers who run our government don't have our best interest at heart," and there's a lot of truth to that.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm wondering when they pull up these Twitter files that Elon's talking about, if they're gonna find words that have been downranked.
Can I make
accounts that have been
make
downranked.
everyone even more depressed? Let's
Hell yes.
Let's do it.
Please do. Let's go.
So the thing that really upsets me is the virtual certainty that nothing will happen as a consequence of this. And let me give you an example when this happened. We all remember the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, and whatever you think of Christine Blasey Ford, Julie Swetnick was an example where it absolutely, she's saying that Kavanaugh was at these parties where there was trains run on her. It's like, why are you going back to these parties? Michael Avenatti was her lawyer. People were tripping over themselves to put her on TV. It turned out her story made no sense. It didn't add up. She never met Kavanaugh, so on and so forth. Charles Grassley was just reelected, who was, I think, head of the Judiciary Committee, ranking hardcore Republican. He put out a press release earlier this year how he wrote a letter to both the Department of Justice and the FBI asking for follow-up about someone who lied to affect the Supreme Court nomination, and they didn't bother replying. Neither of them bothered replying to him. And then he wrote them another letter, and this is his press release. See, I'm writing letters that are completely ignored. Vote for me. So the fact that he's boasting about the fact that he can't even get someone on the phone from the Department of Justice or the FBI about something that is central to our legal system just speaks to me how little appetite there is in Washington among members of both parties to have any kind of repercussions for this. And another great example of this is it really drives me crazy when boomer conservatives think, oh, pedophiles are Democrats, like as if it's somehow like, they're into kids, but they're also into socialized medicine. The Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert, was a predator on young boys. And he went to jail as a consequence for things that have to do with this issue. The Democrats never bring it up. They never use this as a cudgel. They never say, why don't you bring back Dennis Hastert's money? They're more interested in talking about like Margaret Taylor Greene or Trump or George W. Bush, who's now a good guy. Yeah. So that to me is very, very disturbing.
I have not given up on politics, but I'm so disinterested in attempting to use that corrupt system to fix a world that we need to make politics is a result of a healthy society. So let's build a healthy society. Then there will be politics.
Luke, fix him.
Well, so look.
Hey, I'm trying to get him to exercise. That's been, you said you wanted to do it yesterday.
Last night.
I told you want to do it.
Enraged after the show.
I think you need to read this book.
I would love to. Can I have that copy?
You can only help people so much. You got to open the door. They got to walk through.
Fair.
I want to mention just as we're talking about this subject and boy, are we in it? I guess because the Balenciaga stuff, we really needed to talk about this, but there is a positive for us who are challenging these things, trying to get these things taken down. Grateful to Elon Musk for putting a stop to this, and it's that I was talking to a friend, and I said something like, as semi-facetiously, like, oh yeah, like, people believe that a cabal of powerful global elites are trafficking kids and doing weird things. Pause. Because now we know they are because of Epstein and Maxwell's conviction. Hey, that's funny, right? If you said that a few years ago, people would call you crazy, but something happened. And now we know it happened. They're doing it. Maxwell locked up because of it. Mm-hmm. And now we're still sitting here wondering who were their clients.
Right.
So not only do we know it happened, we know there are still people who have never been held to account.
She went down for providing, a service for clients that weren't there. That absolutely doesn't make sense. And this wasn't the first time that there have been major government officials caught in these larger, horrible things that they were doing to children. Dennis Hastert is one of them. The former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Edward Heath, another major one.
No. I looked him up. Ed Heath, it's ambiguous, so let's give him some credit.
I mean, when he's hanging out with Jimmy Savile?
I didn't know he was hanging out with Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, I mean...
Heath we don't have receipts on Heath.
Well, who's Heath, by the way?
He was the prime minister that Margaret Thatcher dethroned. I talk about in my next book.
Yeah, but again, there are many. The
Keynes?
Yes, we just keep going. How many times and how many instances there are of government using your tax dollars to facilitate some of the most atrocious, horrible acts on the face of this earth that people can't even think about.
I think it was in 1969, 1971. If you look up like French philosophers' declaration, a bunch of prominent French philosophers, including Sartre,
early 70s, late 60s.
The 70s, where they all signed a letter saying that age of consent laws should be abolished.
Wild.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wild.
There's evil out there.
So please look it up, double check it.
Okay, I want to talk about evil and cabals because you're saying these conspiracy theories, people don't know if they're real or not.
Well, hold on.
This is very known.
Right. Like the Epstein stuff is it's no longer the realm of conspiracy. Maxwell was convicted. I want to shout out Phoenix 499 who super chatted us saying, all you need to know is that Maxwell was the first person to be convicted of trafficking kids to nobody.
Yeah.
So there's people out there. These are evil people. They've gotten away with it for now.
And one more, let's get a little personal. I was on Rogan a couple years ago because a friend of mine, Matt, and he told me to use his name. He came out to me because he had been the victim of childhood sexual abuse. And the reason I bring this up every so often is it's still one of those things where there's such a stigma to it that people are scared to talk about it. Like if I found out that your mom, was an alcoholic, I'd feel bad for you, Luke, but our friendship wouldn't really change. If I found out, something happened with you, Ian. But this is the kind of thing where people are scared to say something because if you talk to them about it, they think you're going to think they're a wounded bird. You're going to think they're a freak. You're not going to be able to make certain kinds of jokes about them. And as a result of this social stigma, they keep it silent, for the rest of their lives, which is really, really making a victim even worse. And after I was on Rogan, I talked about this. 4 more of my friends came out to me. So if I know 5 people, that means I definitely know more. And that means this happens a lot more than people realize. And until people start talking about it and normalizing coming out and accepting people who've had this done to them, they're going to keep getting away with it. Because the reason these people get away with it is like, don't tell anyone. And that you're a kid, you're not going to know any better. So it's a very, very disturbing cycle that hopefully we're going to be able to break in the very near future.
You think it's just by normalizing sexuality, adult sexuality in our society?
No. No.
Like
Ian.
people are afraid to talk about sex, and then they go and shame, watch porn, and abuse kids. Like if they have a healthy conversation about it, maybe it will prevent that kind of behavior.
Over to you, Luke.
You don't. No. Come on, no, I can't. I can't.
Like,
I'll give you this one. See what I have to deal with. I got to deal with this every day.
We are the result of Puritans, and they were very it was puritanical has that adjective attached to it for a reason, is because it's like no sex.
This
no
might
drugs,
be
no
the most. You've gone full Ian. This is the most. This is
I
the
almost
most.
did porn, man.
this
I'm
is
like,
the-
should I be doing porn right now? Should I be waking people up to the idea that sexuality is okay?
I completely agree. Sexuality is okay. If you want to do porn, I'll support you.
Thank you.
But I think this is something very different from people, not talking about what kind of sex they have, as opposed to like awful things were done to me as a kid and they didn't use force. And on some level, it was pleasurable. And I was confused because I was a child and I wasn't physically hurt. They didn't punish me. I didn't know how to feel about the time. And now as an adult, I still don't know how to feel about it. And this has disturbed me all my life. And I'm turning to drugs or alcohol because I don't know how to deal with it.
For the record,
in my opinion, Hunter Biden, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's a big can of worms that we could open up here in just a little bit. But Ian, I do not support your adult history.
You haven't seen me work yet.
I do not want to. And there's a big difference between satanic evil people using
Like a Clydesdale.
sex as a way to gain energy and feel like they have power over actual genuine love and
Teaching
intimacy.
someone how
There's
to
a
have
big
sex.
difference.
Let's segue to censorship because I have a story from Lawfare. Supreme Court grants certiorari, I'm pronouncing that wrong probably, in Gonzalez v. Google and Twitter v. Tamne, an overview. I'm not sure these are the exact cases. I believe these are the cases in question, but I highlight these stories to tell you that I had a phone call with Google today. It was scheduled in advance a few weeks ago. I received an email where it was sent, I believe, to larger YouTube channels, warning that Section 230, this is the shield big tech uses to eliminate content they don't like as distasteful, while being immune from any responsibility due to hosting some of this content. I believe they're on track to lose these protections in a very serious way. So Google started doing this reach out. Got an email.
Wait,
And
wait,
they said,
can we focus on that point? Because I think it's a big one in terms
Yeah.
of the odds that they're going to lose. I think the odds are very high they're going to lose because their argument is we're not an editorial, we're just a publisher, meaning anyone can put anything out there, our hands are clean. However, if I'm editorial, if I'm picking articles, I'm promoting people, then I am having a voice and therefore the protections don't apply to me. Then I can be guilty of libel or whatever, slander, whatever it is. And very clearly, all of these Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are putting their finger on the scale and promoting some things over the other
Right.
and making editorial decisions. It's unambiguous.
so they're panicking.
Yeah.
I got an email and it said, we want to make you aware about a Supreme Court taking on these cases, which will have a big impact on recommendations. If the Supreme Court rules against us or our position, we may not be able to recommend your content anymore. And you know what I thought when I saw that?
Ian should do porn.
Me too.
I thought maybe that's a good one. Maybe.
Minds.
But no, I laughed. Are you kidding me? That they would email this when we know for a fact they suppress our content. And I say we know for a fact because let me tell you this. I get a phone call from the guy. We had a meeting. I get the email. It says, please schedule. Here's my availability. I don't want to be mean to the guy. He called me and he was advocating for his position. I respect that. He wants to talk to me again tomorrow. I scheduled the meeting for whatever date was available. And we had some emergency stuff going on today. Obviously, we had a heck of a yesterday. So, of course, we get slammed with a bunch of stuff today. You get it. But I get a phone call. I'm in the car. And I'm like, well, I answer it anyway. And I'm like, hey, I'm in the car. And I'm like FaceTiming this dude. And he basically was explaining that if the Supreme Court agrees with these people, that means YouTube, look, Section 230 says you can't sue. I'll give the simplified version. Can't sue YouTube because of what Tim Pool says. I am putting something out there. YouTube did not say it. However, it also says YouTube can't be considered a publisher or of this content, even if they moderate and have editorial control over the platform. Now, how do you have it both ways?
You're a corporation, you always have it both ways.
Right. So they call me and they say, listen, it may be, and this is so hilarious. The guy's like, look, we might not be able to issue recommendations anymore. That means search because we use an algorithm. So if imagine someone searched for your name and the videos wouldn't come up. And I'm just sitting there like, oh yeah, imagine it, huh? Imagine it, huh? I went off. I'm sorry. I snapped. I said, we hit 800,000 views on our video. No trending, no recommendations. There was a period where Google removed this YouTube channel from all of their search. You could type in the title of a video. And I was like, and you're going to call me and tell me that I should be worried about this. You understand that you have so much weight against me. We succeed in spite of what you've done, that if YouTube strips you of your powers, we'll actually benefit from it.
Yeah. 2 points. First, people at home don't realize that when Tim gets this angry, his beanie becomes a mushroom cloud. So it's kind of really cool to watch. And I'm the victim of this too. On Instagram, you can't search for my name. You can't even tag me. You have to spell out Michael Malice because I'm completely Satterbad.
On Instagram, if you try to follow me, it gives you a warning telling you not to follow me because I spread, quote, misinformation. You try to tag me, it says, don't. You sure you want to tag this guy?
Really?
You spread misinformation?
You're more badass than me.
Yeah. YouTube has been screwing me for in my entire career. What you described, Tim, has been happening throughout my entire career. YouTube promotes authoritative sources. CNN, MSNBC, fake news spreaders. They don't spread independent media.
And it's almost
I'm
impossible.
not in the search.
And it's
I'm not
almost
in the results.
And it's almost impossible to find Eden's pornos. I have
Yes.
looked a lot.
Listen.
Look on the Crossmack
I want
channel.
to tell you more about what this guy was saying.
It's
to
not
me.
actually porn on there.
He said something to the effect of, imagine if we could no longer recommend you and you were no longer part of, like, I'm paraphrasing, something like the mainstream conversation or something. And I'm just like, guy, that's what you've already done. We created a new channel, Timcast Music. We put up a video on it. It gets 500,000 views in a day. 2 days later, it is trending, number 23, or number 23 on YouTube. Surprise, surprise, a brand new channel with a big video, gets play, we're trending. But IRL can get 500,000 views on an episode in 2 hours and never reach that mark.
Can I make a point? My understanding is, from someone who has inside knowledge about this, that the trending up section on YouTube is manual.
Right.
Of course.
So
It's not organic.
I think it's a mix, but I think it's largely editorial.
Yeah,
I think
correct.
there's obviously a component, but my point was to the guy. I said, why is it that we know for a fact you can't Google search my videos? Like, if Facebook comes up, you can't even search my channel. When you would search for Timcast or Timcast IRL, it would just show you playlists created by other people because they removed us from search. And you're telling me that you want the ability to be free from all liability when you choose to promote political speech from, say, ISIS, but then you expect me to defend you when you put the weights on us when we call out these bad players. I said this to him, I hope that the Supreme Court rules against you and everything is forced to return to reverse chronological feed because I will do better from it.
Absolutely.
But this talks to earlier about how the suits are often oblivious, because I bet you any money that he had the exact same speech for everyone he was trying to call. He had a list of like 50 people and he had the exact same speech and was oblivious to who he was talking to.
And then the call got disconnected, I guess. He
But that was
fell off.
us. We control the phones and the weather.
Didn't like that. Maybe he got disconnected. But as I was talking, and I'm heated, but I was being polite. It's not you personally, but dude, don't call me and think I'm going to side with you on this one. I don't think he did his research.
I just love the idea that like you're gonna holler up like Ketanji Brown Jackson and be like, "Come on," and she's like, "All right," like I'm gonna rule in favor of them.
Yeah.
No, right? But I also thought that it was kind of funny that Google thinks they can start calling creators and saying support our
But
immunities.
they can. I bet you a lot of these creators are completely art synthetic and a function of
Yes.
their algorithm.
But I'm also willing to bet that when he calls leftists, they said the same thing I did. LGBT creators have been complaining a long time that YouTube suppresses that because it's not advertiser friendly. So they're going to call them and be like, defend our immunity. They're going to say, no, restore reverse chronological feed so that we can have my video can be shown to my followers.
I bet you there's a lot of people who are happy to play ball. Because if
sure.
you look at any industry, the people at the top are often happy to lick the boot.
There's always some Ralphs willing to suck up to power and authority, but I think a lot of people are absolutely frustrated and
That's
pissed
true.
off at these algorithms controlling our society that have been absolutely a net negative, not just to the mental health of this country, but when we see the mental warfare that's being created out there. What are you're gonna be doing something here?
What do you mean by algorithms? Say it. Name them.
Well, I'm not going to, bat an eye when the same huge organization that labeled me a conspiracy theorist now won't be able to editorialize. I'm not going to be mad at that. It's totally fine. Let people see what they want to see. It's that simple. If they subscribe to something, if they want to see something, let them see it. We're adults here. Stop treating us like children. I don't want to be recommended these stupid RV videos or these stupid truck life videos. I don't want to be recommended some kind of psyop. Stop with the psyops and stop with the nonsense. I want to listen to what I want to listen to, and that's what the people demand, and that's what the people will get.
I'm on Twitter, and they have their algorithmic feed and their home feed, is what it's called, and they have the reverse chronological feed. I do really well posting my content and getting shares and getting followers without any kind of weird algorithmic impedance. So YouTube deserves to have that stripped away from them.
My Twitter following went up by an order of quadruple new followers a day when some switch got switched 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And Ben Askren, who is now 0 for 3, my show episode with him is dropping next week. When we recorded, he had more followers than me and was rubbing it in my face, and now I have 10,000 more than him. So suck it, Askren. I know how Jake Paul feels. Point being, there was clearly some kind of algorithmic screwery on the back end that was hurting me before and is either neutral or helping me now.
Yeah, I experienced the same thing. Probably you too, Tim.
Have you heard there's like that internet meme law that says any online forum without moderation will become something like that. Any online forum without sufficient moderation will become right wing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think it's more like it'll become radicalized.
No. That's not.
I don't know who came up with that.
No, I thought it was.
It has to be
I thought it was
right-wing.
Robert Conquest Laws of Power. The second one is any organization not dedicated to being right wing will become left wing. So that might be an inversion of that.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess that's the assumption that the powers that be right now have been co-opted by some sort of leftist mentality, some sort of communist or socialist movement.
Well, but so I don't know where that meme came from, but you take a look at like Reddit pre-psyop control by big powerful PACs and organizations. Yeah, the memes were all like.
Well, that's where the Donald one came from.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it was MIT Technology Review said that the Donald and 4chan's politically incorrect were the progenitors of almost all of the memes that were going viral. They were funny. People liked them. The Pepes. They'd end up on Twitter, and then Katy Perry was sharing them. No moderation. It was just meritocratic. The best memes rose to the top. Everyone liked it, shared it. That culture built. And then all of a sudden they had what leads to, I guess, the dead internet theory, this emergency panic session where moderation comes in like crazy. There's Michael Tracy tweeted this. Twitter's rules from 2015, pre this big emergency meeting, was basically don't incite violence, but we will not intervene in any disputes between people. Now it's we take a political stance, hardcore, etc.
Yeah, YouTube in 2006, when I started, June 2006, on the Cross Mac channel, go check it out. It was all owned by YouTube. Google had not bought the company yet. That was like a year and a half later. And they were just featuring whatever they wanted every day. There'd be 10 featured videos every day. And throughout the day, they drop down one every like 2 hours. A new one would come up. So you'd be slowly siphon off the front page. It was all idealistically motivated. Whoever was controlling YouTube at that time was deciding. It was Steve Grove, who was running politics, was like, I like your video, Ian. I'm going to feature it in news and politics. So he liked it. His political both our political agenda got pushed, which was reelect Barack Obama. But then at some point, Google bought the company. I saw that's dangerous. That's corporate conglomeration. This could be really bad. People started getting banned. And then the politics, new people probably came into the power and control. So since the beginning, it's been a platform and a public, like they are deciding who gets to be seen since the very beginning.
I think Elon Musk has shown us a lot of what this is. Big advertisers are scared because left-wing activists organize, and they organize predominantly on Twitter, these campaigns against them. Now there's uncertainty and they don't know what to do. I think it's funny. Advertisers announced that they were going to pull off their ads or reduce spending on Twitter due to uncertainty. And my personal view is the uncertainty likely is which side is going to attack us more, and we don't know who to side with anymore.
Same thing. This is how Times Square for Pride became all rainbows, 25/8. I've tweeted this before, that only corporate America can make sodomy and perversion seem downright boring. But before gay marriage became universally accepted in corporate culture, they just kept their mouth shut. Like they would have these little organizations like, we have this little program, but now you buy a candy bar and it's a rainbow. It's got a rainbow flag on it. Every month is Skittles.
Except for their brands that operate in like the Middle East or whatever. Those are the ones that never
Don't
change.
they have a banned substance in Skittles that was recently found out that was absolutely really horrible
that
for people?
Adrenochrome?
Hold on.
Do you think that we should?
No, I don't think that's where the
good stuff.
I don't think that's where they hide the adrenochrome.
Do you think that we should advocate to ban corporate advertisement in social media?
No. What? Really?
It's just
That's
pure- it's
that's
just-
such a First Amendment
it's-
violation.
Are you communist?
Yeah, go back to
social-
Russia.
social
Go back to
media-
Russia,
Michael
Natasha.
keeps looking at me when Ian says stuff with this look of like, I can't believe he's here.
Social media is working in the.
I love him, and I'm in love with him.
It's working. I love you too, Michael. You know.
He says something and you look at me
You
with
better
his
know
face.
that.
I'm like,
What's he saying?
is he for serious?
Yeah, because I think the huge social media networks, the ones that I think where their code should be freed, like they're working in the commons. And at some point, if the advertisers are controlling the commons by blackmail or by saying, we will take our money away if you don't do what we say, that's bad for the commons.
I don't disagree with that, but what I'm saying is this is something that you're trying to kind of square a circle, and there's no easy answer one way or another. If you're going to have a subscription model, then it's going to be kind of Karen-oriented, because the ones who complain the most are going to have disproportionate amounts of power, so things are going to be kind of inoffensive. So I don't see an easy answer here.
Right, because if you remove advertisers from YouTube, for instance,
someone's
all
gotta pay
these
for it.
people with the partner program are I don't think it's called the partner program anymore. It's something else, but everybody would start losing their ad revenue.
Yeah.
That could destroy tens of thousands of careers, you know?
I think Elon recognized the power of cancel culture and what they were doing. I don't think it's the sole component of why he bought Twitter, but you can see him tweeting at Tim Cook. Apparently, the Financial Times reported that he was calling CEOs saying, "Why are you dropping us?" Yeah. I think Elon knows the fear they have of Twitter. I think most people listening understand this. If you've got Twitter followers and you have a problem and you tweet about it, that company bends over backwards to help you. I don't like the system. I think it's really dumb.
Wait, hold on. Hold the phone.
You didn't know this?
I've got a lot of Twitter followers.
That's right.
I can make problems for people just by calling someone.
No. You can get whatever you want.
Wait, I want what I want.
Okay, so here's an example. If you are boarding a plane, you can just.
Oh, yeah,
I had a
yeah.
terrible experience.
Oh, yeah, of course.
This is horrible, and they'll say, "We'll upgrade you. We're so sorry. We'll give you whatever you want."
Wait, you really?
Yes.
I can do this?
Have you,
I was si- I
you tell
strongly
them?
recommend
We're not
it.
going to hear the end of it
I
now.
was sitting in the middle seat on my flight here, and let me tell you, as soon as I got off the plane, I talked to the manager from Timcast, and I certainly hope
were
she-
you on a middle seat?
Were
I
you
was in the middle seat.
do you prefer
I
window?
felt like an animal.
Were
seat
you
do
Sydney
you prefer?
Watson?
Oh, yeah, squeeze between two larger people, according to Sid.
Here,
It wasn't according. She had receipts.
But the point I was making, just try and stay on subject, I suppose, is when you have a lot of followers and you have a problem with a company, you tweet about it, they will take care of you because they know you can direct a lot of bad reviews, it's negative advertising. Twitter has created a negative advertising space.
I'm going to tweet at White Castle right now. I hate them. They're really not good. I'm not joking. It's inedible. So let's see what happens.
Most fast
Hold
food is.
on. You misunderstand, Michael.
You just
Well,
want
I'm tweeting anyway.
You just want some free burgers.
I don't want White Castle with
I used to
White
eat those
Castle.
sliders.
Yeah.
Those little guys.
So
Why gotta be
imagine this. Elon Musk has 120 million followers.
Done.
So when he says Apple's pulling ads or Apple's threatening to drop Twitter from the platform, and then he tweets directly at Tim Cook is on blast. His phone starts going, and he's going, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh no, Elon's tweeting at me. Oh man, he's got 120 million followers." What's happened, according to the Financial Times, is that when Elon calls the CEOs, they reinstate their ads, but to a minimum level,
Okay.
to keep the money flowing. These ad networks are terrified of whoever controls the communication sphere, and now Elon has it.
Okay.
well, it looks like Elon has it, but whose money is Elon using?
I told you not to talk about it on the air.
Global bankers' money that they can turn off your account at any moment, we found with Kanye's situation. So let's talk about who controls social media. It's banking. I
Is
mean,
it?
it's the money.
But you think Elon isn't acting under his own volition?
I think he is within the bounds that he's given, which is this is your U.S. dollar. This is how you get by. This is how you get food.
You're not completely off, but there is agency among the individual, right? Elon is very powerful. This is the point I'm making. He has Twitter. He can wield 120 million followers. That's why they're scared to go too hard against him, because you look at what's going on in China right now. Even with the power and the iron fist of the CCP, people have reached their point. So there are powerful interests. There are people, and it's self-interest too. Like these big corporations, they don't like that Elon can push them around. There are powerful government interests.
They
Look
also
at the
don't,
Democrats.
they also don't like the spotlight on them. They
Right.
want to stay like, okay, the reason how it works is with like Black Lives Matter, you don't want to be that one corporation that didn't have that black square. It's much easier to go with the herd because then no one could pick you off. So when he calls someone or puts them on blast, all of a sudden there's no good answer for you as a corporation because now you're like, I'm going to offend somebody, and that's my nightmare scenario.
Their stock price will drop.
Yeah.
Negative
Apple's
press.
stock price, yeah.
I mean, I don't know
It
if
did actually yesterday by 3%.
Oh, is that right?
I just saw a clip.
Okay.
Screenshot, yeah.
And they know that, and they're
find
like,
out.
a 3% drop is how many billions of dollars?
Exactly. Like how many
Because
less
Elon's-
iPhones are we going to sell, and how much an ad revenue is that going to, like if we spend 10 billion on ads, how many, or 10 million or whatever. Yes, Apple's stock price is down 2%.
Well, a lot
today.
of stocks are down, but seeing
Yeah,
the
that's
war
fair.
between Elon and Apple is pretty glorious. It's pretty
What was
amazing.
that?
That was
like
like
Donald
Trump
Trump.
clip. Sorry.
It's spectacular to see because Elon even said, "Hey, if this gets too crazy, if you guys ban us from the Apple Store, we're just going to create our own phone."
Which you should do.
Yeah, I think is awesome, and I think the market is going to provide a solution to a lot of the censorious, a lot of the insane algorithms and control systems that is trying to, of course, suck out humanity from existence.
Well, do you think that the government should strip 230 protections from these companies?
I think if we have organizations there using these kind of speech platforms, using what is essentially our modern day town halls and censoring people, editorializing people, I think that right there is them taking advantage of a situation. And what should be the larger solution to that? I think they do have a monopoly. I think it's fair to say that, and I think it needs to be broken apart.
Oh God! Oh my God! Okay, now you
Before
both,
the show-
you both can go back to Russia.
Okay. How do you deal with Google? How do you deal with this problem?
State power, obviously.
Yeah.
Because they are an institution that is a part of the state.
Right. Wait. I'm not arguing there. There's absolutely intertwined between them and the state.
Yeah.
You can't like break up Twitter. Like that doesn't really.
No, I'm not saying break
make
up
sense.
Twitter.
Okay.
I'm
so-
saying stop the government. Essentially
sorry,
working with
misunderstood.
the
Yeah,
government,
yes.
working
that
with
you're-
Google,
you're-
working with Twitter needs to stop immediately and need to be broken up and not have this unfair advantage that the government gives them.
I hardly endorse literally everything he just said.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. I know you got scared there.
I did.
I don't. Trust me. I don't want more states to solve the problem of the state.
I thought you were getting all Sherman.
No.
antitrust on me.
I'm not getting there. I'm just saying
Yeah,
the
no,
state.
you're right.
The state empowers these monopolies. The state needs to stop immediately.
Section 230 is government protection for big corporations to be free from any liability for what they publish, recommend, or otherwise, while they are also simultaneously free to editorialize and promote whatever they want. That is insane. Imagine if we had a law in this country that said you as a newspaper can never be sued for defamation.
But
that's ridiculous.
but this is one of the big arguments for anarchism, meaning of separation of government, of commerce and state, for the same reason you have separation of church and state, because we saw it with the pharmaceutical companies, which is this deal on behalf of literally everyone in America, where you're going to make your shot. I don't even know what words I can say on YouTube anymore. And we really needed to rush to market, understandably, we're under an emergency kind of unprecedented situation. But as a result of this, there are going to be no consequences for you if things go bad.
Yeah.
It couldn't even be like, you know what, here's what's going to happen. If things go bad, we as the government are going to make some kind of welfare and pay out for people who had consequences for our wrongdoing. Just like if there's certain other situations, like you're in war and you're a soldier and you come back, we're going to take care of you. They didn't even do that. They're just going to be like, you know what, no one's going to be responsible. And that to me is government at its most malevolent.
No liability at all,
Right.
which is absolutely criminally insane, especially when there are clearly a lot of people getting hurt by this. They have no one to go to. Who's going to be paying for their medical bills? Who's going to be taking care of them? There's no ability to have any kind of restitution at all,
Right.
which is insane.
Or even acknowledgement of wrongdoing.
Exactly.
Right. Just here's the blank check.
Yeah.
Go for it.
No, there's no blank check. There's
no
nothing.
checkbook.
There's shut up,
There's
get
no
away.
nothing.
We
Yeah.
told you to do this. We manipulated you to do this. We extorted you to do this. We told you can't travel, you can't live, you can't go see your grandma die unless you do this. You did this? You got hurt? Who's responsible? No one. You're responsible for believing us. That's essentially what they're saying at the
Dark
end of the day
side.
here.
Relatively recently in history that they did that too, right? Where they made the
No, this has been going on since like Teddy Roosevelt.
I was going to say
vaccine immunity.
Oh no, I'm sorry, not like monopolies being able to do what they want.
Yeah, in fact, protections are probably the new thing.
Vaccine immunity protections is new, isn't it?
No. Corporate protections. Corporations aren't. What do you know when the first corporation was?
Oh, but this has been issued since like the 1890s. I don't know what the first corporation was.
It might be the 1890s around then. I'm not sure.
I don't think so. I think it's got to be earlier.
Before.
Well, East India Trading Company, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was like a country, man. That was so powerful.
Right, basically. But you think you had any rights working for the East India Trading Company?
No, they would issue you script, like their own currency that you'd have to use on their territory to buy like food from their stores.
And imagine what would happen if they're like, we want you to go take this machete and go clear bush. Like, what if I get hurt? And they just laugh. Like, how could you even ask that question?
Right.
Do it or don't eat. Now,
because you're replaceable.
Right.
There's no shortage of people from Ireland or Eastern Europe who's, we can kind of fill your shoes.
It's only recently in human history we started saying like, hey, people should be responsible if they're misleading, if they're causing problems, or at the very least, if there is if like you release a toy that has an issue that needs to be recalled and you don't, and people get like you'll get sued. You're responsible.
Someone hurts you, the party that hurt you is responsible, is liable. The government steps in, says, no, they're not liable. But also, to add insult to injury, they're also acting like the PR agency of Big Pharma. If we look within the last few years, the White House has essentially become a marketing and advertisement arm of Big Pharma and other multinational corporations that they agree with that enforce their agenda. That, to me, is another layer of communism that we have to deal with that's absolutely insane and needs to stop immediately.
I feel so redundant.
Yeah,
he's saying all my things. Like, what do I do here? Like,
I need you here when the statists are here. Tell me when the collectivists, when the communists, when the right wingers who want more government here. I need you here. I need you in my corner.
Can we talk
here.
about this?
Thank you.
Oh my God, this is.
Please preach.
Let's talk about this because this is something that blew my mind because it really drives me crazy how conservatives use the word communist in the same way that progressives use the word racist. Just means something I don't like. I was on the Blaze on election night, and Steve Deese, who's a Christian conservative, who I was very impressed by. He was very, very bright. He really kind of understands how politics works. But his conclusion at the end was to have Twitter be run as a public utility by the government. And I'm like, you're fighting communism by having these organizations be run by the state under socialist. That's literally socialism.
And then people take it even further by saying, I think I know what's better for everyone. I think they need this in their life and that in their life. And we need the state to mandate this and this and this. And I'm like, you're sounding exactly like what you're fighting against because the
supposedly
leftists,
fighting against.
Exactly. The leftists are making the same argument saying, I know what's better for you. I know what's right for you. And this is why we need the state to intervene and use their monopoly of violence in order to push my wills onto you. And I'm like, stop violating human rights.
When the conservatives talk about we need to be teaching morality in schools, that's what CRT is. That is progressives teaching their morality in schools.
We'll have a conversation about this.
Okay.
I think you can do something like put Twitter under government control that's not communism or socialism. It may be socialistic, but it would also enshrine, theoretically, First Amendment protections on this platform that's become a weapon for one political faction.
Yeah, but look at like NPR, right? Like NPR is heavily subsidized by the state, and they're so...
Are they, though?
Minorly, I believe. It's very low percentage, surprisingly.
Then why are they allowed to call themselves National Public
Why were they
Radio?
called Federal Express? Exactly. It's totally misleading and it should be illegal.
Well, you can't call like there was like an issue calling yourself Bank of something that this was a big issue because it was really
Bank of America.
I've been told. Good for me.
I think it's weird. What if you're right? I'm not sure. What if I called my company official U.S. government post office business or official U.S. government candy? That was the name of my company. I mean, that would have to be illegal. That makes no sense.
It would make the kids change their genders.
When you look it up, and maybe this is wrong, it says NPR does not receive any direct federal funding. It receives small competitive grants from CPB and federal agencies like the Department of Education and the Department of Commerce.
And
so how are they funded? If they don't, do they have advertising
from viewers like you?
I think it's mostly money, independent money.
Well, more power to them.
It's actually kind of crazy where they get the money from.
I don't want to come out and say I think I definitely agree that the problem is government. I think all power systems tend towards corruption over time.
Yes,
and the problem is that government programs can't fail. They're surrounded by the monopoly on violence, like Luke was saying, and so they can never just stop. So perhaps sunset clauses in anything is like maybe a constitutional amendment. All government programs and laws will have a 5-year sunset, must be revoted upon by the people or something like that.
The problem with that is if you look at like a trademark law, right? It used to be that after X amount of years, a character becomes public domain. And Disney is just lobbying Congress. So Mickey Mouse and Superman, because they're made in the 30s, should have been public domain I know how many years ago, meaning anyone can make a Superman movie, anyone can make a Mickey Mouse movie, and they just keep pushing the bucket down the road because there's such an asymmetry. Disney has a huge interest in this. The rest of us have little power or interest in this. The symmetry is never going to be in the favor of the freedom.
I think in regards to how you deal with a monopolistic social media network, I kind of agree. I don't want the government controlling who gets to say what on the network, because that's just another kind of monopoly. If the government was to be like, no,
how
we're
does it
going
a monopoly? It's just popular. Like it's very difficult to have several search engines because one is effectively going to be much more optimal than the others.
Yeah, and because it's better, it's become. Maybe you're right. Maybe the word monopoly is not the right word, but I feel like Google has a monopoly on internet search. They maybe not, because Brave is there. DuckDuckGo exists.
But like if those other things had a competitive advantage for some way, because Google beat Yahoo. I'm old enough to remember Yahoo was the search engine. There was Alta Vista and there was Web Crawler and there was Ask Jeeves. I don't know if those still exist, but the point is Google won because their search results were more useful. So I don't know how you would even beat Google in that regard.
Well, I don't think you can.
What you can do,
What do you mean beat them exactly?
But what you can do is there's that film. Sorry to interrupt myself. There's the film The Creepy Line, which is what they really should be going after, is how Google operates. And as an example, if I am searching for, let's suppose the guy Robert Levine, maybe his name was, the professor. Let's suppose I'm searching for Hillary Clinton, right? And Google makes it so the top 10 search results are articles that are positive toward Hillary Clinton. And if I search for Donald Trump, Google makes it so the top 10 articles are critical of Donald Trump. That is going to skew the electorate one way or another, and all of us would be oblivious to see that Google has their thumb on the scale. So that is the kind of thing where the government can be investigating and being like, all right, something here is not adding up because you're acting as a political agency. And in that case, there's all sorts of things that go with it.
All I come to is to, I mean, the audience has heard this before probably, but free the software code.
Yes. Amen, brother.
I agree with Ian on that in terms of, so we know the algorithms that are manipulating us.
Yes.
But not the property line of it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I would bring in experts to talk about what actually needs to be freed. I don't think it's every ounce of lettering in every code base.
You
and every
should have
system.
him on. The guy who he got kicked off of Gmail because of this. Like he basically did the work, and he's like, for example, another thing he found is like Facebook. They would, if you liked Hillary, they would hit you with, you should go out and vote.
What was
if
it?
you
What
like
was his
Trump,
name? Robert Epstein? Is
yeah,
that
I think that's his name. Yes, correct.
Hell yeah,
Was
we
it
should have
Robert?
him on. How do we
Yeah,
make that
No
happen?
relation
You can't
to the other
you
guy.
can't search for him anymore.
Yeah,
What a surprise.
Psychologist.
he was
profession?
basically saying that the search algorithm was flipping votes.
Yeah, and the way he described it not only does it make perfect sense, you'd have no way of knowing.
Yep.
There
was even many scientific studies detailing how big tech social media companies can swing elections and help candidates win when they had no chance of winning.
During there were Twitter hearings in Congress. A Republican brought up that when you are in DC and you sign up for Twitter, Twitter recommends Democrats and only Democrats.
Wow.
He was like, why is it? This is what you get.
Well, let's play devil's advocate. It could be that the DC is overwhelmingly Democrat,
Right.
So the odds are, if you're in DC, you want to follow Democrat.
And that's, when I did this phone call with this guy, that's basically what he was saying. He's like, don't you want us to be able to show you what you want? And I'm like, I want to be shown what I choose to watch.
Yeah.
This is the way they think. We know what you want more than you do. Sometimes I get these Instagram ads and I end up buying a UFO and then buying a second UFO because it was a cool ad.
Wait, where's the second one?
at Adam Krigler's house.
It's gone.
Oh.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Well, this is the second one,
How
technically.
much are those?
It's like $200.
Oh, okay. That's
It's cool.
Spin
I saw it on
the phone
Instagram
out.
and I'm like, oh, I want to get that. And so they kind of figured it out. I want something, right? But when it comes to political content, it doesn't work the same way.
Right.
It becomes extremely nightmarish when you start. This is what I was explaining to Dorsey and Vijayagade, that if they keep doing what they're doing, there's going to be. I don't think I said the word civil war back then, but maybe if you go watch the episode, because what I was trying to get to is you're forcing everyone into boxes.
Yep.
You are creating
100%.
polarization on purpose, and they were like, whatever, they didn't care.
But I think all in their defense of using that term very loosely, the thing is with social media and you have these conversations, it works kind of evolutionarily in that anyone's philosophy is going to be driven to its logical conclusion because you run enough iterations that any kind of contradictions are kind of going to go away and you're going to go towards the extreme or the logical conclusion of whatever their premises are. So that is why kind of in many ways this moderate middle is vanishing, because being in the middle is not really a coherent position. It's just kind of a reaction to these two other poles.
Yeah, the middle can be like extreme right, left, really fast, so fast that it looks like it's in the middle.
Right.
So there's still a balance in the extremes if you can handle it. Hopefully most people can. I mean, you kind of have to when you're on social media because it's so extreme. When you log on to Twitter, it's so extreme. Everything is so extreme.
It's like
not everything.
It's like Mountain Dew.
They got me talking extreme.
I'm curious. Some people have suggested that Elon Musk's moves are actually against the right because there's this idea I've talked about. You have two kids. One is covered in filth and dirt and mud, and the other looks beautiful and pristine with a nice little suit and tie on.
Let's call them Ian and Luke.
Ian and Luke. And so, listen, there's a mother.
No, you listen.
Listen to me, Michael. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. When you approach this woman and you see one child smeared with ice cream all over his face
I
and all
should have
nasty.
stormed off. That was my chance. I
That was your
blew
chance.
it.
It
was.
I blew it.
When you see a kid all messy, covered in ice cream, and one kid who's looked very clean, you assume, man, that kid must be unruly and crazy. That kid must be responsible. In reality, the mom just doesn't give the kid who's clean any treats or reprieve and is mean to him. The kid who's messy gets whatever he wants. They're both actually bad kids. What happens on Twitter is they start removing people on the right. Okay, this is bad, you're gone, bad, you're gone. And all that's left are moderate conservatives to center, like center right to moderate conservative voices. And on the left, they say you can do whatever you want. So you end up with Antifa, violence, extremist posts. So it skews and ends up making the left look insane. Elon comes in, and I'm not saying he's doing this on purpose. Maybe he's just genuinely like free speech. Some people are saying allowing everybody back on who's crazy is going to actually end up making the right look bad because it's going to bring back the worst possible voices.
But I don't think he hasn't. First of all, he hasn't brought back Carpe Donktum, who's like number one on my list, because Carpe Donktum was making memes for Trump. There's no reason for him to be banned. It's complete crazy. So Elon, please bring back Carpe Donktum. You brought back.
Well, he's bringing back everyone. He's bringing back tens of thousands of users very soon.
So is he bringing back
everyone?
Is he bringing up Milo? Is he bringing back Chuck Johnson?
He did a poll saying a blanket amnesty for anyone that didn't spam or clearly violate the bigger rules here. Yeah, but everyone's going to be back.
There's that asterisk.
62,000 people.
Fine. My point is, we don't know that that's going to include the people who were like where Twitter had previously regarded as the worst of the worst.
I agree. Like Jones, he's out or said he wouldn't bring him back. Right. Does this mean he will?
That was interesting. Someone asked Elon, I think it was Viva Frey, Frey. David, how do you say your last name, Frey? If he would bring back Alex, and he was like, no, I have no respect for people that would. I'm paraphrasing what Elon's response was in text, that he values children, and anyone that would demean and use children for political gain or power, he's totally disgusted by.
That's all of Washington.
And that's an example of like, you're going to let one guy run your social network.
I responded to that. Do you know what Obama did in the Middle East and how many weddings and children he bombed?
But it's an example of like, you let one guy run a network. He has total emotional control of who gets to play.
But it's not emotional. I think he's making a coherent, if incorrect in your opinion, perspective.
Yeah, but
he's not a woman.
I think he paid the price for saying those things in public and free speech. I mean, he's done his, he's.
Can we talk about this? I really, really hate that term free speech. I don't ever use it because it means so many different things to different people. Yeah. Like some people think, oh, if you're blocking me, you're blocking my free speech. It's like, if I'm not letting you in my house. Left. No, there's a lot of conservatives who say that too. Oh, I thought you were for free speech, and now you blocked me off your page because I'm an idiot who's babbling MAGA stuff.
Did you tell them that freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences?
Well, I can reply them once they're blocked.
Oh,
yeah.
That's the argument, because is it free speech to go on Twitter and say all these racist stuff, and then you get banned? It's still Elon's free speech to block whoever he wants. But then you're like, well, is it a public company? Is it a private company? Now we're in new territory.
Free speech is a principle. It's like an ethic. It's a position that we hold culturally. At least we did for a long time until culture started shifting, I guess. Everybody opposes free speech when you can knock them from power, I suppose, to varying degrees.
I remember being a small kid, being like, yeah, it's a free country. I could say what I want. Now we don't have that.
On Twitter, if you are allowed to go on and say your opinions, as repugnant as they may be, that is free speech. If Elon Musk says some opinions are not allowed, he does not believe in free speech. Free speech, there are reasonable limits, I think is fair. I don't think doxing should be allowed, and that is First Amendment protected speach. But, so, even I am not an absolutist.
So here, let's talk about doxing. If someone's contact information is public, right? Like in a phone book, whatever it is, and you republish that, do you consider that to be doxing?
That's tough.
Right? That's a tough one.
Right.
Is it doxing if someone just Googles someone, you can find their address?
I don't think that actually qualifies.
But I don't like it. I think that's really kind of egregious, and I think you guys would probably agree.
I think it is egregious, yeah.
Right?
The government also sells your addresses many times through the DMV, through private corporations.
Is that
and
right?
then later you could buy, there's services online where people go and buy government registries and then have people's addresses where people could buy it online and find out where they live.
It's like if I send your address to one person, is that doxing? If I send it to 10, now is that, if it's 100? Like at what point does it become a dox?
I think it becomes a dox when you're sending it to strangers.
Like so if it's public, does it, or privately to strangers, people I don't know?
Yeah, I think, or with the intent, certainly it kind of plays into here. Like this is something. It's not like, hey, wish Ian a happy birthday, send him a card to his address. That's is that doxing?
It's a fine line. We got to respect people's privacy, but also at the same time we got to respect people's speech. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, because I'm allowed to say what your address is. I'm allowed.
Yeah,
I mean, legal.
In public under the First Amendment, doxing is protected. You can hold up a big sign with someone's address and walk around with it.
It's actually also really kind of crazy. I'm reading autobiography of this woman, Mabel Dodge Luhan, who had these salons in her house in the early 20th century where modernism started. And the articles in the New York Times would be like, Mrs. Mabel Dodge, of 5 East 23rd Street, New York. And it would just have her address there. It's like, this seems like it's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I guess culture is the biggest issue, in my opinion, when it comes to everything. Most of the political stuff we're dealing with, it's cultural. When you have a culture that is cohesive and agrees on morals and ethics, like you can leave your door open at night. You don't have to worry as much about crime. But when you have a society, a country where everyone's just like, you're not a part of my community, I don't know you, I don't care, now you got to lock your doors.
It seems like when you have small localities, there tends to be a homogenization of culture because there's only 70 of us. You know, we all know where 7th Street is. But as soon as you introduce 100,000 or 10 million unknowns to the culture, you're in a state of like, I can't leave my address online anymore.
We used to have the yellow pages.
Yeah.
Like there used to be books of everyone's addresses.
This used to be the big appeal of cities, that if you're from some small town where everyone knew your business, you could go somewhere and get lost and vanish. And that it's not just a thing for criminals. It could be things like, I want to rediscover myself. I want to create a new identity for myself. I want to get away from this kind of upbringing I had. So this was back in the day a benefit of cities. But thanks to the internet, that's kind of gone away. I don't need to go live proximately to people who share my worldview. I could just find it through social media, so on and so forth. And given how just deleteriously cities have been collapsing in the last 10 years in terms of just basic safety and public services, it's just the question on the table, I think, for many of us is, are cities an outdated mode of organization,
or are governments? Because cities
the answer
have
is yes.
way more government than a lot of other places that
sure.
have a lot less government.
You guys are minarchists. You said you're a minarchist.
That's the most insulting thing they could ever tell me to my face, Ian.
He just called you gay.
I know, worse than that.
Like you
But
said,
Ian,
you said that social
Ian,
media needs a little bit of
those are
government
fighting
oversight.
words. Those are fighting words.
Earlier, I think you were saying about Twitter that
My goodness.
maybe are you indicating
I have a machete here.
you're down to break up monopolies with government? Is that what you're like? You said earlier that you want the government to be involved
see
with
what I-
social
No,
media.
I love this show so much.
Do you see what I have to deal with every day?
Well, you've told me you're a minarchist.
Every
I think
day.
we've
No,
been
he's
through
never
it a
said
little
that.
bit.
I've never
Yeah,
said
to
that.
my face here, like 3 weeks ago.
Anarchist, maybe.
But zero government, because then the corporations just take control.
The corporate. Oh my god! See,
Ian,
every day.
Ian, please read this.
I mean, do you think Klaus Schwab has not created a government?
Are you going to talk about roads
Oh my
soon?
God. Oh my
He's going to be talking
I would
about
be
roads.
happy to bring up public roads.
He's
yeah.
going to bring up roads.
Oh my God.
Who controls the roads?
Hey, if some,
I'm
It's
gonna
me because I have the most guns.
I'm
Now get off my
deferring.
back.
Okay,
Hey, I have to deal with Malice. You deal
one
with this.
One sentence. If you have a job, that's basically a government.
But think about it, corporations
only-
can become a government if they're unchecked.
The only entity or institution anywhere for any reason at any point that could make a road is the government.
And Domino's.
Well, I think that
Well, yes,
Yes.
but that's besides the point.
And
pigs.
Pornhub.
And pigs.
a socialized government can protect free roads for people better than a corporation, in my opinion.
But that's your opinion is. You sound like Jason Whitlock. Your opinion's based on nothing.
I love Jason Whitlock, by the
Your
way.
opinion's based on nothing. We can look very quickly to find out private roads versus public roads and how safe they are, how often they break down, potholes, things like this, and it's not even a question. It costs.
Well, hold on. When the government builds the road, there's a simple solution to the potholes. KFC comes in and fills them and then puts
was
the
Domino's.
KFC. It was Domino's who
Yeah.
did that?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yes, what you were saying.
I think
okay.
the evidence would be that corporations are authoritarian by nature. You have one person in control that decides who stays, who goes. And if they
That's
control
not-
a
oh my
busy
God.
roadway...
Now I'm triggered.
You do this. I can't handle it. I deal with this every day. Your turn.
So a busy roadway, for instance, if Google owned, I-77...
I'd rather talk to Kanye.
Most people might agree with you.
You have an opportunity. He's going to storm out.
Yeah. So what do you do if like
we got to both storm out?
if Alphabet or Microsoft owned like I-77 North, and then like tomorrow we don't want any black people on that road, and you're like, where's our government to protect us from this psychotic corporation?
Okay, so let's walk through this thought experiment, and I've never used the word thought more loosely. What do you think would happen to Alphabet if they publicly said, we are going to have a part of our company that is forbidden for use by black people, forgetting lawsuits and discrimination law? Literally, what do you think would happen to that company?
Antifa would show up with crowbars.
The only thing would happen to the stock price overnight.
Well, let's think about this. Who controls the stock market? What if people tried to storm the headquarters, Antifa, overnight, and they have armed guards outside that killed them all? And where's the government to stop that from happening?
Okay, I'm talking about this peacefully. Forget Antifa. If a company declares we are not going to have part of our organization accessible to black people, do you think there will be no extreme immediate consequences for that company?
I would hope that there were, but I think that when Vanderbilt shut off the railroads to New York, there comes times where he had so much control of the system.
I'm not talking Vanderbilt. I'm talking about now.
Well, a general boycott isn't enough because it controls so much aspects of society already.
I think you don't even need a boycott, because anyone who's a publicly traded company is there at the behest of the stock owners and the board. So if I am whoever's running Alphabet now, I don't even know his name, and say, first of all, I don't even know how they're going to.
Sundar?
I don't even know how they're going to get this plan through. But if someone, if Elon Musk tomorrow says, all right, here's the new rule on Twitter. No one who's black can be on Twitter. And that even includes, what's his name? Sean, whatever.
Sean
King.
Sean King. Even Sean King. You're not
Talcum
allowed.
X.
Talcum X. Thank you. He's not allowed on Twitter. The number of audience would implode. The number of news articles would be through the roof, and the stock price would be nothing. And all that money that he's owed, I don't know how that would work, but those banks would call in that debt.
Yeah, it'd be
immediately.
panic.
So you might be right because of the emotional charge about racism. You're right. There could be reactions. Now let's take something more insidious. BlackRock wants to buy farmland in the United States. What if they buy it all? Where's our government protection?
Do you understand what determines price?
Ideally,
no, not ideally.
Supply and demand, but
right.
I mean,
If they're
colluding, the government decides you can't set your prices. You know, we have protections so that corporations aren't deciding what the price is.
Wait. So if I am buying, let's suppose just eggs, right? The more eggs I buy, the higher the price of eggs becomes, right? And then it becomes asymptotic, right?
In like a mechanical system that's supposed to happen.
But real estate is a great example of this, like Austin and New York. As more and more people are trying to buy real estate, the prices are extremely quickly increasing, right?
Yeah.
We know this. So
Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, right. I don't know how much farmland there is in America. It's a lot. But at a certain point, the costs are going to increase very, very high. And BlackRock, if they're not earning a return on their, I'm not a fan of BlackRock, by the way. I'm not saying this is something we should be like applauding. I'm just saying there are mechanisms already in place that the idea that BlackRock can buy America, I don't even know how much the cost of real America would be. It just would be insane.
And I want to point out too, your concerns about BlackRock are based on the fact that they get free money from the government.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
or
that's
just
what-
from the
that's what
federal.
we're
It's not
arguing
the government. I mean, it's the Bank
So
for
you want
International
more
Settlements.
government to deal with the problem of government?
No, the government. It's not the government. It's the Federal Reserve and the Bank for International Settlements that are supplying the funds to BlackRock. It's not the American government.
We are in favor of treating the members of the Federal Reserve as war criminals. I think I can speak for Luke in this. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Private company, but
No, war criminals.
they're
We're part
not.
of war
The
criminals.
Federal Reserve is a
They're not
private company.
Am I speaking?
I'm not saying they're not war criminals. I'm just saying it's a private company.
They're not a private company at all, and they should be treated like war criminals.
Are you suggesting they're a government agency?
I'm not suggesting it. I'm saying it.
No, the Federal Reserve is a private. It's a
No,
quasi-private
exactly,
public organization,
right,
but it was invented by J.D. Rockefeller, John Rockefeller, Paul Warburg in 1913.
Ian, this is the nightmare scenario of when you have this kind of corporate government intertwining, where you have this almost like a Frankenstein creature that's half one foot, half the other, and no accountability, no liability. And that is exactly what anarchists like me and Luke, and anarchists of all colors of the black flag, are opposed to. Because this is what Marx referred to as capitalism.
Fascism. Now, I agree that fascism is the other end of the spectrum, whereas corporatism is equally as dangerous.
Corporatism is fascism. It's just fascism with a better brand name.
Fascism is when you bring government into it. Corporatism could be like John Rockefeller owns every road And now if John Rockefeller doesn't like you, you can't drive.
Okay.
That's bad.
How is he going to afford? Do you know how much every road would cost? Like even Elon Musk with $45 billion, that can buy you maybe the roads in like one city.
Yeah, but they know the bankers that print the money, and they can.
But again, that's
all
the federal.
private
That's
crap.
the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, it's not American government. That's different. It's a private company the American Reserve has given their power to. It's a total co-opt of our government.
Yes, that is corporatism.
They're using government, Ian, to do this.
The government is the fall guy. The American Republic is
No.
legit.
What is their American? A republic is the government.
It's supposed to smash up monopolies.
Supposed to is a blue-pilled word. Supposed to doesn't exist in reality.
we have antitrust laws to break up, like Rockefeller Standard Oil at the end of the 1800s.
We have
we had to break
antitrust.
it up.
We have antitrust laws, so monopolies will play ball by whoever's in power. Even Teddy Roosevelt and Wilson, who were the first two progressive presidents, both explicitly said there are good trusts and bad trusts, meaning the monopolies that do what we want and monopolies that don't do what they want. This is exactly a mechanism, just like Facebook and Google and other things. Biden will call you up because he's got these antitrust laws behind him or whatever other laws at his disposal and be like, you know what? We'd really like it if you were censoring this misinformation. It's dangerous to our democracy. And they're like, oh, of course, we're doing it privately. But it's not privately because it's a complete collusion between the state and the free market, ostensibly free market.
Do you think that if government were totally removed and it was just market, that it would work out, that everybody would be happier and wealthier? And
Not everyone. Certainly the politicians it's going to be really hard for them when consequences will never be the same.
I feel like corporation tendency to profit over human goodness is like
You can only profit
use people like slaves.
Slavery is not profitable. It's expensive, number one, and besides, it's immoral. Would you be buying candy bars from a company that's built on slave labor? Well, the sneakers, maybe sneakers.
I got this thing. It's probably
Sure.
built in a Chinese lab
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think everything in here might be like, I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of it's this table's actually American made locally. But the
Okay.
cameras are foreign made by people in horrible conditions.
Well, that's a problem.
It is, I agree.
That's why we make governments to stop that. In my
But
opinion,
the
that's
government
the
is
benevolence of government is that it can protect us from those
But
things.
in fact, over the past couple of decades, the government has been colluding with foreign corporations to sell all of our jobs overseas to benefit China.
It's what Nixon did with
Yes.
with Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger. It was an open policy, the open China policy that they implemented. So you got to understand, like Ian, at the end of the day, all roads lead to, of course, the government abusing its power because they don't need to provide a service based on any kind of reputation or any kind of consequences.
We're going to go to Super Chats. Oh, sorry to cut you guys off.
This is a great
if you
show.
haven't already, would you smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and become a member at timcast.com. I've gotten word from the crew here that there is going to be a behind-the-scenes breakdown of what happened with Ye and the crew when they came, because we filmed their journey here. There's conversation and stuff that happened, so we are going to have some kind of members-only footage of how everything went down, and it'll be interesting. But we're going to have a members-only show up for you guys tonight around 11 p.m. is when we upload it, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you really want to support us. All right, we got Set Me Free, who says, Balenciaga is for abusers only. If you rock it, we know how you get down. What's wrong with you? There you go.
Yeah, I was hoping to talk to Ye about that yesterday because he did a lot of work with Balenciaga. And, a lot of people are being questioned about it, rightfully so. And I think, I wonder what he knows from inside of the industry, if it's even, sinister from there. But sadly, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Tim, dude, everywhere I look. Tim Pool this, Tim Pool that. I can't stand all of the weak AF BS out there. We have a nation to save. We have a movement to continue. There's no time for childish BS games.
I'm kind of with that,
Yeah.
man. I think forgiveness is the fever of the day.
So I want to point something out.
Forgiveness? I want vengeance. Are you kidding for what they did for 2 years?
Maybe do both.
Yeah, we could forgive them after
Vengeful forgiveness.
vengeance, then forgiveness.
I think justice. I try to be careful with the idea of vengeance because
but it's so fun.
I agree. It feels good.
Yeah, it does.
But
and if it feels good, you should do it, especially if children are involved.
no.
That was the lesson of the day, no?
No.
You know that song?
I mean, it is episode 666.
You
You're
know
wonderful
that
just
song,
who
if it
you
makes
are.
you happy, then why the hell is it so bad?
Yeah.
I always heard that and thought about like just drug abuse, and I was just like, what is wrong with this person singing this? Like, what is she saying?
That's true.
But I know the song isn't about drug abuse, but I just kind of was like, there's a lot of things that make you happy that
Yeah.
are very, very bad for you.
What were you just saying before Michael derailed? Because you were about to say a point that I wanted Michael to hear.
Which I don't remember.
What was the super chat?
About
About everything.
vengeance.
Oh yeah,
vengeance
I was going to
and
say that
justice.
after the Kyle Rittenhouse trial,
Derailed.
you know, the conversation was like, oh, do we try and book Kyle Rittenhouse? And I was just like, no. If they reach out to us, of course we'd love to have
He
him
just
on.
followed me last night on Twitter.
There you go. But what I don't like doing is being like, let's be the first to get the big person. And then I just got to say, I am not happy with how things went down yesterday. And I wake up in the morning and it's like, I'm trending. I hate trending.
I have I've never trended, and it really drives me crazy because like all my friends have trended. I'm such a
gotta
loser.
trend,
I know.
baby.
I know.
Same.
Everybody right now, if everybody right now tweeted Michael Malice just right now, you'd be trending.
I'm a very, very, very little man in every sense of the word.
But we end up doing this booking because it was like, hey, we could have this big story on the show, and it implodes on us. And I'm like, I'd rather just have people in that we find are interesting and talk about the news.
I didn't think it imploded on you at all, to be honest.
I'll put it this way. Our plan was not to have them storm out. You know what I mean? I thought we were going to talk about news, and we just happened to have the people who are in the news here. And it turned into, I feel like Ye planned it. I really do. Because when we were talking beforehand, he was calm. The points I made during the show were similar points I had just made 20 minutes before.
You didn't raise your voice. You didn't interrupt him.
And then and I feel like people, it's funny because people don't know what happened before the show. So there's all these comments about what I did wrong and everything. And I'm like, the pre-show, you know, they're like, you shouldn't have brought up that article about Pence. And I'm like, I brought it up an hour before the show started. There's a big screen right there that everyone can see. And it was right there. Ye looked at it, read it, and then said, what, did Pence like betray Trump? Is that what happened? And then Fuentes started talking about what January 6th and Pence.
But bringing up Pence was germane. Pence was condemning the dinner, so ask him his opinion about it. You weren't saying Pence is right, get out of my house.
No, I said, this is the news.
Yeah.
There's a dinner that happened, tell us. And he immediately went into the subject, and it was very, very different to everything that happened before. And
can you describe how his affect changed? Because when watching him sitting here, he really seemed like he had a huge chip on his shoulder.
Before the show, he was sitting here texting on his phone, minding his business. He looked up, he was calmly talking to Milo. He was smiling. He asked questions. There was something that came up about sin. Are all sins created equal? And Milo said, certainly some sins are worse than others. Like no one's going to claim, you know, and then he makes a few comparisons. And then Ye smiles and he says something of like, you know, all sin. And then he looks at the article, he makes a comment. It was very, very calm, and we were chill, and we were chilling.
Yeah, he was talking about doing the show every week. He was like, we got to do this more. We should do this once a week. And I'm like,
that could be Hollywood talk, though.
Sure. But he brought up something about how, I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was about Jewish people. I said something.
No, did he say Jewish people or did he say the Jews?
He said Jewish people.
Okay. Oh, so that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that what, that's what I thought he kept saying, but whatever. He said, you know, Jewish people or something, very calm, laid back, smiling. And I made a point about Bezos, Elon. I mean, these are wealthy people. And he goes, yeah, but come on, Elon works for the Jews, right? And then he looks at Milo and he says, didn't they have him do that thing or whatever, that ceremony or something? Very calm. And even when I pushed back and said, he's on Twitter, he's unbanning people, Ye was chill, totally calm. Camera goes on, he starts going off, I gotta talk about this, and don't interrupt me because I'll walk out on your show. I tell you, very, very different. That's why if you look, I'm like confused. Look at my face when he walks out. I'm like, is he walking out like?
Because you were just, you said, I don't agree. And he's like, deuces. It's like, you didn't yell at him.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to keep rehashing this. I just wanted to bring up the point that I'm wary of doing shows like that because there are people who are like, I want to get press.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was concerned, and I said it. I was like, him walking out made the story very big. Like, I want to do a show where we talk about ideas, and like we don't do drama. We don't like drama. And now, like before the show started today, we were talking about like, what's the big story to talk about, and it's like, you know, Ian, you were like, we're the news, and I'm like, that's, you know, you're not wrong. I'm like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what Trump's doing. I want to know what his plans are. I want to know how that affects us. And here we are in this in sort of I shouldn't say we're the center. Ye's the center, but we're on the edge of it, and it's our fault because we want to do a show that it turned into a PR spectacle instead of a conversation about what was going on.
I think it's the natural evolution of the show as well, that it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and it'll become more and more the focus of the human consciousness stuff. The conversations like this, I think.
You're right, like Rogan. You know, Joe said, I just want to hang out with my friends and talk. Yeah. And then all of a sudden his shows became the news.
Yeah.
And that worries me.
And I'm going to play devil's advocate because it is 666. I'd rather that be the news than whatever is going on Anderson Cooper or Sean Hannity that night. I think it's much more honest.
We'll keep bringing super chats because I don't want to leave you guys hanging. Deprived Dolphin says Project Veritas has a new video on federal sponsored human trafficking. I saw a bit of it. Did you guys see some of this report, like a whistleblower from the government talking about this stuff? I gotta watch the whole thing though.
I just had James on my show. He did a great job. It was a lot of fun.
O'Keefe?
Dude.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm excited they got unbanned.
Yeah.
Did James personally get unbanned yet?
Yes,
or?
I believe so. I'm 90% sure.
That was so egregious. It's crazy, and the creepy cultists who cheer that on. Good news though.
Is that episode out yet?
Yeah.
On Your Welcome?
Yes, on You Are Welcome.
All right. Bub Savvy says, Tim, Destiny thinks Fuentes would run circles around you in a debate. Hilarious. You should have Ruslan KD on the No Jumper Pod episode today. All think you're anti-Semitic apparently. Oh, because they didn't watch the hour of me ranting against anti-Semitism that resulted in people saying, we get it, Tim, shut up.
Literally how, dude?
Yeah, like we were complaining about all of that stuff, but they're not real people. And I'll tell you this.
We're not real people, and you're not an anti-Semite. You all heard him. You all heard him.
The trolls online are drama baiters.
Thank you.
This guy, Michael Malice.
Master drama baiters.
Let me tell you.
You've seen my videos.
Destiny thinks Fuentes would run circles around me in a debate. Oh yeah, they probably would. I don't debate people. I don't. He prepares for this. It's all he does. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm the smartest person who can. I have convictions. I have beliefs. Sometimes they're wrong. Seamus, there's a really important point. I was arguing with Seamus on a show. Boy, was it embarrassing. I kept saying abortion means this. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. And then like a few days later, after reading it, I was like, oh boy, I was wrong. Wow, that's embarrassing. Yeah. And then I came out and I was like, Seamus, you were right about that.
I was just wrong about NPR today.
Dude, it's so valuable to
Maybe
find
I
out
didn't
when
really
you're
do
wrong.
much research.
But the point is, it's possible I'm wrong.
I think everybody's wrong at some point in their life.
course.
Everybody's wrong. It's
But-
when you realize it, that is so valuable for your mind.
Here's my point.
I love Ian so much.
Someone who is confident will win a debate knowing nothing over a scientist with a PhD in that field. Mm-hmm. If you are a talker and you can speak, you can make it sound like you are right. That's debate.
There's this great debate, which I couldn't sit through because I was bored, with Bill Nye the Science Guy against the creationist. And the creationist knew what Bill Nye was going to say, whereas Bill Nye thought the guy was just going to be like, God put Noah, blah, blah, idiocy. Yeah. And the creationist just knocking him out. And Bill Nye's like, oh, what do I do?
Yep. Well, Bill Nye's not really a science guy.
Correct.
You know, that's a funny
He's
thing.
an
too.
engineer, isn't he?
But there are people who are really good at debate, and you don't need to know facts to be good at debate, but it does help.
And those people tend to become lawyers.
Yeah, debate tactics. I'm looking them up
Gish
now.
Gallop.
There's things like argument. That's a debate tactic. Is awe. Is that a debate tactic where you can actually put your opponent in awe and then they back down?
Yeah.
Gish Gallop is, I think, is the best example.
Yes.
It's where you throw out a whole bunch of points all at once so they can't answer any of them.
But if they only answer one, it's going to take 15 minutes. That leaves the others on the table. Yeah.
Yep. So that's why I'm like, I like having discussions. You know, I'll invite people in, we'll have a talk, and if I disagree, I will say what I disagree on. And if I'm wrong, we had Matt Bender here, and I mixed up a city, and I was very confident, arrogant about like, you're wrong. You had to, and I pulled it up and went, whoops, I had the wrong city. You got me. And then they clipped the video, and they're like, aha, Tim's wrong. I'm like, yeah, I know.
I don't think people appreciate at home how often, if you're doing this live and the conversation's dynamic, you're going to even just have brain farts and misspeak.
Yeah. It happens.
Here's a good one. Mr. P says, episode 666 on the 333rd day of 2022. How about that?
Whoa.
Okay.
Does that mean something?
Mechanical simulation, baby.
Amen.
For Ian, it does.
Yeah, I got chills right now, and I'm not lying.
Whoa.
I got goosebumps.
And it's currently 9:45 p.m.
I don't understand
way.
that.
You know what that means?
4 plus 5 equals 9.
Oh, yeah.
369, the sacred numbers, the universal numbers, and it's 666 on episode on day on the 333rd day at the 9th hour. What's 90 cut in half? 45. 9 half 4.5.
I agree.
So glad it's 9:46 now.
Let's dismember Ian. The numbers have spoken.
This was a cult the entire time?
Yeah, man.
Where's the obsidian?
All right, let's see what we got here.
What do you think happened to Lydia?
Tak Fuji says, I wasn't very interested in Malice's opinions, but then I saw his underwear ads in Times Square, and I decided I would fight the state. Then I saw a cat and noticed I had Twitter notifications and now lost.
Sheathunderwear.com, promo code Malice.
Was it in Times Square?
No.
Oh, okay. He's
talking about your ad, yeah.
Oh, okay. He said underwear ads in Times Square, but it was just you.
Yeah.
Should we put you up in your underwear in Times Square?
I mean, maybe when I get my cum gutters back.
I think you're going to be back up in Times Square again too.
Oh, awesome.
We're doing New Year's Eve.
Oh, heck yeah. You told me that. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole tower.
Yeah. That was very depressing going back to New York. I was very, very upset.
When were you there?
Just in August to see the billboard that you guys put up. And it really upset me. A lot.
What was the worst?
Seeing the billboard. His own face.
Your face.
If you think I'm ugly now, look at me when I'm this tall. No, it was that I'd been gone for a year. This is the city I lived my entire life. And that you would think there'd been a year to heal, and it remained exactly the same. Anything that had changed for the worse. To have like 30% of the storefronts not be occupied, and within 10 minutes or 15, let's say, I saw someone peeing on a van in the street, not on the sidewalk, and people are like, "That's always been New York. I've lived in New York all my life. That's not been a common occurrence."
It's
it was
just
so
corporate
gross.
chains. I was just back a couple days ago too. It's horrible there.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I'm so saddened by it.
The Curly Afro says, I have waited so long to see Michael Malice return on Timcast just to say you, sir, are a national treasure that must be protected.
Oh, that is so nice. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
How much did you pay him to say that?
He paid a couple bucks.
50 shekels.
Vacant Stare says, I prefer Malice's razor. Never attribute to Malice that which can be explained by Hanlon.
I like that.
Guys,
Malice's
brilliant. That was
razor.
really smart.
My fans are smart.
Okay. Keto Thor says, Ian looking mighty cozy tonight.
Thanks, dog.
Yo, it's cold in here.
Yeah.
The heater stopped working. So like the AC gave out, and then we got the AC fixed, but we didn't realize the heat wasn't working. So now it's cold out. Now the heat's not working.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I was texting the show like, yo, I'm cold.
These are some first world problems.
Yeah, it was cold too. He was wearing that big coat. He was like, why is it so cold in here? I'm like, bro, I don't know.
You know why? Because we control the weather.
It might be part
In
about
this
why I
room
walked,
specifically.
Yeah.
like why I walked out.
It was just cold.
Yeah,
He's just like,
"And it's cold in
here.
here. F this. I'm out.
Okay, what do we got here?
You know where it's not cold? Israel.
Oh yeah.
What's the temperature like there?
Perfect.
gets cold there.
It's always perfect.
Is it though? Is it like a good 70 degrees?
It's the desert. It's got to be super hot.
One day I want to take the Balfour Declaration, the creation of Israel. I want to have a long conversation about it in a safe place, in a place where we can talk about it online with people.
I
and-
think
and
that
listen.
that place does not exist.
Then we need to create it.
A safe place to discuss that on the internet. I don't know about that.
Yeah. Ian wants a safe space.
Oh,
It's the first time I've ever asked for a safe
Hey, look,
space.
maybe the government can build him one
Yeah, right.
on their road.
All right. AI says, I've always said if the Dems were serious about investigating Trump, they would have a special committee on Epstein. What do? Investigate a fake dossier and a bunch of MAGA nobodies. Priorities. If they were serious about Trump, then it would have been Epstein first, but they're not serious about any of it.
No.
They're just going after political opponents. All right. One pissed off hippie says, the machine elf Michael Malice, please unblock me on Twitter. I won't call you a lawn gnome or share the meme. Please end my struggle.
What's
session."
his username? I'll do it right now.
One pissed off hippie. He's cool.
Is it the number one or the word one?
The number
Word one? Is that his Twitter handle?
Yeah, one pissed off hippie. Number one pissed off hippie.
Please-
Is that you, Ian?
Let me. No. It's just some cool
Ian.
dude online.
That's totally Ian.
I'm gonna make sure it's the number one.
No results. It says
Maybe
No
it's
results.
the word.
one. The
How do
number
you spell
one
it, Tim? Is it
pissed off.
HIPPY?
Just
I
at
think.
me, Ian, and I'll with his username, and then I'll block him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for this and make sure it happens tonight, dude. Thanks for super chatting that.
All right. Eraserhead says, if YouTube and other sites lose the ability to do search, doesn't the internet just revert back to where everyone uses YouTube to host their videos, and those videos get embedded in the personal websites of creators and brands? Or YouTube is a reverse chronological feed where people see the videos that were recently posted, which will...
Oh, like an Instagram almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they can't recommend it. They can just, when
Yeah.
someone posts it, it'll appear if someone chooses to see it. I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, that actually would make a lot of sense.
A lot of big prominent people would disappear. I guess according to Darren Beattie, Lex Fridman would be gone
Really? Why?
because he's made the argument that YouTube's algorithm is just forcing Fridman on everybody.
In all fairness, I mean, you can't be surprised that one robot's gonna recommend another robot.
Aha.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting point though. You go on YouTube and you look at these things and it's like instantly recommends Lex Fridman podcast.
Yeah.
Is Lex Friedman as awesome in person as he is on TV?
I absolutely. Lex and I are next door neighbors, right? And there may have been times when I feel bad saying this, but I'll say it anyway. My video camera looks at his house. So sometimes when I'm bored, I'm like, when is Lex leaving coming to come home?
That's weird.
Go knock on his window.
Because I said I'm
Just
bored.
kidding.
And there was this one time where there was like this chair in the garbage, and I was like, oh, I wonder when he threw this chair out. And then I looked, and he actually went in the garbage can and made it stick out more. And I have to ask him about this. But
You know what? You guys should do a funny bit where like you're watching his door, and then he walks out, and then he walks out the door and then stops and then slowly looks at the camera.
No, Tim. This is the joke, and I told this to Lex. I hear when the garage opens because my office is right there. He had a guest leaving his podcast, and he was saying goodbye to them. And I'm like, I gotta get like a clan uniform here, so that like when I hear him saying goodbye to guests, I like open the door. I'm like, hey Lex, how's it going? Like the wacky sitcom neighbor, and he has to explain, oh no, it's just Michael. He's just like that. So if someone wants to send me a clan uniform to add to the 7 I already have, yeah, that'd be really great. No, but Lex is really he has, for someone who is made of string and wires, he has like the biggest heart maybe of anyone I know.
Does he like bring you fruit baskets?
No, he's very kind of keeps to himself, and I really don't want to be like always knocking his door. I want to respect his space. I don't like that kind of thing. But he really takes a lot of stuff to. He's very passionate about things. So him online is a lot like what he is in real life. He's like a lot funnier in person, like a lot more jokey. Maybe it's because of me, but he really cares a lot about people. Something I can't relate to at all.
Bro Cody says, Tim, not that I'm counting or anything, but you're 0-2 with rap artists on your podcast. Fair point.
That's true.
Have we had any other rappers?
I could bring
Tom,
more.
Tom McDonald, please
Yeah,
come on the
McDonald's
show.
next. Get ready.
Give us one victory.
I
plate.
could bring some more if you want.
Oh yeah, Luke.
Did
Luke
you
was the
find
one.
the Twitter
Luke was the one who wanted
looking for it.
Kanye on the show.
Hey, one pissed off
And-
hippie, tweet at me really quick so I can see your account.
And the other guy who, with the slapping of the
Ready
microphone.
to Ready to Rumble says, Tim, your chat has become toxic hater vomit. You know, people are allowed to say things even if they don't like me. So it's like, what do you do? If
up
people
the
show up
engagement.
and they get in the chat and they start saying that they don't like the show or I'm bad or whatever, I'm like, okay.
But your
it's
chat's
allowed.
really dynamic. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
very, very fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I try to
have,
read all the chats.
we have to put it on
I got
slow
it right
mode
here. Oh, okay.
and
Lord, okay.
subscriber only. And so all the people who hate me are subscribing, and they want to say they don't like me, and they're allowed to say they don't
Yeah,
like me.
of course.
So
Cash that check.
During Occupy, I was live streaming, and it was like all these leftists, like liberal people who were watching, of course, and then a bunch of conservatives came in and started smack talking and everything. The viewers that were like more left, we had like 2,000 viewers at the time on my phone. They were like, Tim, you got to ban these people. You got to ban them. And then I just said, why would I ban them? They're allowed to talk. They're allowed to dislike me. They don't have to agree with Occupy Wall Street. They want to know what's going on too. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, this Tim guy's pretty cool. And they started like saying like, oh, okay, we're going to keep trolling, but we appreciate that you're letting us. And I'm like, just don't spam, guys.
At the end of the day, you got to appreciate the trolls.
Okay,
You know?
I got to call bull. No one's ever called you cool. I don't believe this story for a second.
I bet you could.
It's not Tim Cool.
No,
Not yet.
but there are other words that rhyme with cool.
That's true. Case closed.
That's right. So they've called me those things too.
I've called you those things on this show.
There's a lot of people.
He calls me Pim Tool off the air.
You know what I think?
Dim fool.
Do you
Pim
know what I think?
Tool to dim fool.
Do you know
Dim fool.
what I think the funniest name for Trump was? And it took them 4 years to think of this. Tronald Dump. I'm like, that's actually a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I sent you his Twitter, by the
okay.
way. I think it's one pissed
I'll just
hippie.
reply to yours. Did you DM me?
I just messaged it, yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Jack Ryan says, Milo declared on your November 9th show, you cannot give people the First and Second Amendment unless they're Christian. You just can't. Those are rights that I, a non-believer, fought for, and better men have died in war to protect for all American citizens. He said non-believer.
Wait, can you repeat that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said something like that.
You said you can't call a non-believer Christian?
No, he said you cannot give people the First and Second Amendment unless they're Christians. You just can't. It was a quote, or I think it was from him. He said those are rights that I. Oh, okay. I think Jack Ryan is saying that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Milo said you cannot give people the First and Second Amendment unless they're Christian. You can't. Then Jack Ryan is saying those are rights that I, a non-believer, fought for, and better men have died for to protect for all American citizens.
Of course.
Yeah, I think a lot of Christian beliefs are in our system, our agnostic systems. So you can still run the. I don't know if you need to be a Christian.
I think literally over 90% of Christians who believe in the second, 95% would agree that everyone has the right to protect themselves.
Michael,
What? Yeah.
It's episode 666.
Yeah.
On the 333rd day of the year.
Yeah.
Which equals 999.
Yeah.
And I read it at 9:45, and half of 9 is 4.5. And there were currently 54,000 viewers, which equals 9.
Wow. Herman
That
Cain
proves it.
Herman Cain is spinning in his grave.
Is he a numerologist
Science.
too?
No, he had that 999 plan, remember?
No.
Oh.
That's awesome.
999.
Yeah.
9.
Let's see.
And then Michelle Bachman said, turn upside down.
There's
Prosciutto
a German
lives.
joke there.
Prosciutto Live says, so sick of Lex being shoved down my throat. Lex has the most boring vanilla opinions on everything.
He does get recommended everywhere.
Fine,
That's
but the point is,
the point that we were making is that like YouTube, he probably has more recommendations than any other podcast.
I'm sorry. I never thought.
I'm not saying anything bad about him.
I didn't think that person is, and I'm happy to defend Lex. I don't think he has boring vanilla opinions and everything. I think his big principle and what he's doing well, especially to do, is for people to be kinder to one another, to listen to one another, and to be less antagonistic and more cooperative. And I think that's a great message that I don't entirely agree with.
All right, Edward says, Ian rolled a 20 and Malice deflected. Ian is right. Government by the community depends on the community. Dude lives in a fantasy and it's hilarious.
What?
Well,
He's in awe. The debate tactic worked.
Yeah,
Thank you. Community government. There's going to be a form of governance no matter what.
correct. I'm not disagreeing with that. Yeah.
Troy Rubert says, don't forget he has...
Neither Ian doesn't agree with that either.
Right. I think
Okay,
it's
yeah.
the scope and scale of the current
yeah,
government
yeah,
that's
sure.
the big problem.
Troy Rubert says, don't forget he has synesthesia and he sees sound.
Do you, Ian?
Kanye.
Okay,
Synesthesia.
yeah.
I think I do too. Sometimes when I listen to music and play music, I visualize it. If the note goes up, I visualize it on a line graph, and I can see it. And sometimes it'll become a 3-dimensional
Oh,
graph.
cool. Okay.
That's interesting.
Is it?
I do as well.
you see words.
Fun fact. I'll explain it later though.
Red Vista says, just a point for the discoverability of your channel. The way I discovered this channel is I looked up Joe Rogan drama when he was being canceled and just filtered search by max views and got here.
Wow.
Interesting. People complain often that you'll search for my name and it's nothing but haters. Like people are trying to find this show and they find nothing but people hating on me.
Wow.
And this has happened to other people. I'm not going to drag into the conversation, but other prominent people who are not establishment aligned are like, if you get the establishment left channels ragging on you instead of the people actually trying to find the show.
Wow.
Yep.
I do think that algorithmically, if I type in someone's name, it should take me to their channel first.
Of course.
And then
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Track Media Only says, someone needs to tell Malice that some people still buy iPhones. So yes, people will buy products made by slave labor. I think that point was made, right?
Yes.
You were like, oh, well,
Thank you for informing me that people still buy iPhones. Thank you for this new information.
I'm not going to buy Apple.
Yeah,
Not anytime soon.
I'm fed up with
You
Apple.
won't be able to.
Well, to be fair, I
Foxconn.
want to make sure I clarify. We have Apple devices here because we're building an app, and we started building an iOS app. I'm not a big fan of Apple, but I recognize people use it. I would love to see Xphone from Elon or something, but I prefer Android. I use Android. I got Android here. It is what it is.
Maybe you can make phone PHO with the umlaut N. Just
Fun.
Foon. Yeah.
Foon. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have a members-only show coming up for you at 11 p.m. over at timcast.com, where you can click the Join Us button, sign up, and support our work. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Follow us on Instagram, and you can follow me personally at Timcast basically everywhere. I post stupid things on Twitter if you want to see them. Michael, do you want to shout anything out?
You could follow me at twitter.com/Michael Malice. There's a few hundred copies left, signed hardcovers, and once they're gone, they're gone. That's the top tweet on twitter.com/Michael Malice. And You're Welcome is going to be great for the rest of the year. And I'll be back very soon to launch The White Pill, A Tale of Good and Evil, which is a book I've been working on for 2 years.
We'll order pizza and wings when we do it.
Okay.
Thanks for coming and helping me deal with the statists and collectivists here. I appreciate the.
You're all a
additional
bunch of
help.
socialists. Wait, can I tell that story quickly?
Go ahead.
When Ludwig von Mises was at the Mount Pelerin Society, and Milton Friedman and all of them were discussing how in a free society you could still have some kind of progressive income tax, and Ludwig von Mises stood up and said, "You're all a bunch of socialists," and stormed out of the room.
You bunch of socialists. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/wearechange. I just did a video about Elon, China. Check it out. It's up there right now. And if you're a member of LukeUncensored.com, I did a video about all the behind-the-scenes things that were happening here. Check it out, LukeUncensored.com. See you there right after this broadcast. Thank you again so much for having me.
Yes, follow me at IanCrossland.net. All my social media, Ian Crossland, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Minds, the list goes on. Michael, great to see you again, brother. When people watch You're Welcome, what time of day, what day?
I drop it Wednesdays at like in the evening, like usually around 7.
All right. Thanks for coming, man. What's happening, Serge?
And I'm still Serge.com with the high energy coming through. Love you guys. Thanks for checking it out.
All right,
It was a better
everybody.
episode than yesterday.
We will see you all over at timcast.com. Thanks for hanging out.